start with homemade breakfast sandwiches.
Fuck now, find somebody else to do the fucking issue. Fucking faggot, dude. I'm fucking sick of all the fucking shit. You fucking tweeting every single project that you fucking work on except for the one that you worked on with me. I'm not supposed to feel like that's wrong in any way. Sick of feeling like I'm fucked up, like I'm always wrong. You're tweeting every project that you draw except for mine. Yeah. Sick of motherfuckers, dude. Sick of always being fucking mistreated, never fucking treated right. Never fucking treated like everybody else is. I'm always the fucking piece of shit that gets fucking shitted on, right? Fucking done, dude. I don't fucking need anybody. Fucking need you for this shit too, you stupid fuck. That's how you're gonna be. Get the fuck out of my life then. Say it with your fucking chest. You fucking pussy. Fucking done holding back, dude. I'll leave you in fucking 2025. There's somebody else that can do fucking artwork just like you, bitch. Fuck you think you're playing with?
I'm ready to get me a house. I just don't know how big yet.
Fuck do you think you're playing with? I'm a real fucking man. A real Dominican man.
Zero down payment.
Okay, so nothing up front.
I don't know what they be doing down there south of the equator on that pussy foot and shit. Won't speak with your chest. We don't do that. We say what the fuck we mean. We stand on business, bitch. Little fucking foreign fucking pussies. Don't know how to fucking speak with your fucking chest.
Resist.
You little fucking foreigners, fucking goof troops.
You know, you're in it.
Not an ounce of American in you. We can fucking tell.
All right, seeing things like that, like you say, all right, so you said you saw men become monsters. Is that metaphorically or literally?
That's literally. I've seen men do nasty things like an animal, but then I've seen men become not people.
Like literally
not
change.
People. Yeah. Okay. And there is like lycanthropy, and there's these understandings of what the watchers are capable of doing that most people are just woefully ignorant of. And that's why they're perishing. It's because they lack a basic understanding of history. And one of the predominant understandings of what a watcher, specific class of celestial beings, is capable of is augmenting itself. They can shapeshift. That is by their nature. They're literally called metaskizmazotoi in the Greek in the New Testament. And it's because he says it's marvel not, because Hasatan you could say like transforms himself. That's a good word for it. But he shapeshifts himself into an angel of light. And his messengers, his apostles, disciples, they do the same thing. And he's like, this is because they are capable of becoming anything they want to be in order to deceive on one side of the equation. And that's what they'll do. And so when people start engaging in these necromantic rituals and other stuff, and they start to seek the embodiment of these celestial ones, they can get these things on them and in them, and they can't contain them. And some of these guys who are messing with this stuff, who don't come from the bloodline, are incapable of cohabitating like a parasite, and they feed off of each other, and they can't handle it. And so that's why families are recruited from these bloodlines, and children are recruited out, even if they don't know anything about it. Like you said, the vast majority of people who come from these bloodlines, there's a lot of muddying of the waters, there's a lot of purity that's been changed, there's a lot of half-breeds. There's a lot of quarter breeds, right? There's a lot of people that don't know this stuff, and they start to get into lesser magic, and all of a sudden it's like the doors of everybody open to them. But that's why. It's because they can host these things better. Whereas those that don't, they get taken over by this stuff, and they can't change back. They can't return, in a sense. Like, people become completely possessed and are incapable of expelling the darkness after that. And who do you turn to? You're like, you're going to go to the Catholic guy who's all into the same thing that you're into, you know? Or like, most people don't understand what a real deliverance is required for somebody that has gone down this far down, where they are consuming people. Like, that's a deep, devastating psychological, spiritual shock. Physical, your liver, like the health. This is why I'm huge into health, because I physically had to try to find ways to help people who have done all of these things. Like, the consumption of human blood does horrific things to the human body. You know, and this is a major practice within this. These families do drink blood. That's why we have these vampire class of people. It's not some kind of myth. People consume blood in order to live, extend their life force. Like, this is a normal thing. You got billionaires today who admit it on Joe Rogan podcasts and other places where they're like, yeah, I used the blood of my son and all that. Like, you don't understand, this is a religion, you know, and this is a highly effective means of augmenting yourself. And so these watchers will give people this power. Their priest class will dispense that to people who want to go into, you know, like what I come from down there in the Apache reservation was the the people that slip between realms and become animals, you know. And it's
you are hitting things that are confirming so many things that, like, I speak hypothetically about, almost in the sense that, like, I believe but I can't prove kind of thing. Like, for instance, years ago I had a guy on the show, and he didn't say it on the show, so I usually don't say his name, because some people know who I'm talking about, some people don't. But because he didn't say it on the show, I don't know why he didn't say it on the show. But he said that he was a former, I guess, I forget, like, Satanist or whatever. Like, he came from a deep line of this stuff, and he said at one point, he says at one point people have to make a decision whether they're going to go the vampire route or the werewolf route. And he said that he was told by somebody who went the werewolf route that he should go vampire, because doing werewolf is like the most painful thing you'll ever experience in your entire life.
By the way, guys, for those who don't know, when he's saying the Watchers, he's talking about fallen angels. Okay?
I don't know. I can't say factually how true that is or not, but you're saying a lot of similar things, and now you're saying that there's traversing realms involved with this. So are you saying that there are people who are traversing realms because of their ability to change into these things, or are those two separate categories, or sometimes the same?
I would say it like this: the reason that there's these First Nation people have preserved these priest class, right, just all across the world. This isn't just like localized to white European people. There are people here who practice this type of same old religion, and they call them skinwalkers. That's a name for them, right? But these witches and warlocks that practice these things, you know, they go and rob graves, and they take the infants' bones out and they grind them into powders, you know, and they use that as poisons, you know, like that. So the Jesuits was this like massive assassination team training group that was operating there that started training me. Well, then it was like you needed to learn this spiritual side of assassination and hunting and stalking. And that's where the skinwalkers and the Navajo and the Dene are like they have a different priest class that does that. And so that's what I got put out there for, because they do stuff like slipping between realms. We call them shadow walkers in the industry. Like, these are guys that have this means to go between spaces. And so whether you can't hear them, you can't see them, you can't detect them, they're not on thermal, but there's certain types of ways that you can detect them. So it's like you have to get kind of raised up into these arts. And these are like, this is why we call it, like, this is to me the realm of Azazel. I'm just convinced that this is all Azazel's kingdom in that realm, and that side of it. And people are just branching off of his tree of knowledge of good and evil side.
Notice he said Azazel, or some people may call him Azazel. It's a fallen angel. If you ever read the book of Enoch, it talks about Azazel a lot. This is crazy.
You know, and he's ultimately the one that was teaching men these ways of war in that sense of it. But like, just like with what happened with Nebuchadnezzar, man, they cursed him with lycanthropy. Daniel warns him, hey, don't go down that road. You got a dream from the Most High, don't do it. And he did it anyway. He said the Watchers are going to curse you. And that's literally what they did, man. They cursed him and made him a beast. They took him down the lycanthropy road, because that's what they do, man. His hair grew out, his nails grew out. Like, he became a different thing that if you and I spotted it on camera, we would say it's a cryptid. We would call these things cryptids, because we don't have a proper working knowledge of history and understanding why people called these things these names. But the vampire side of the equation, they tend to be much more human masquerading, whereas you get much more feral production when people start to take this other route of becoming a beast. That's kind of the options that they give people in that world. But I believe a lot of the guys that you see out there, or who are experiencing these things, they're loose assets for families. Like, these are guard dogs on estates. Like, that's literally, there was a training program I had to go to when I was 9 years old, and we'd go up to this farm in Michigan that was in the family, my dad's cousin, and they train all of these police, military, law enforcement, and VIP protection dogs, you know. But then they have other cages that are man-sized cages for other stuff, because that gets brought in by the families, you know. These are guard dogs on estates. Like, that's literally, there was a training program I had to go to when I was 9 years old, and we'd go up to this farm in Michigan that was in the family, my dad's cousin, and they train all of these police, military, law enforcement, and VIP protection dogs, you know. But then they have other cages that are man-sized cages for other stuff, because that gets brought in by the families, you know. And it's like some of these are people that are just beasts, like physically people that are like not like the rest of us, strength-wise, speed-wise, power-wise, intelligence-wise. And then others of them are just unrecognizable as anything related to man. And so
is that their ability, the strength, intelligence, is that something that is brought on through ritual, or is it brought on through like medical injections? You know, like I've heard stories of, you know, military injecting, you know, people with things and they essentially become a super soldier. Is it that kind of stuff, or a combination, or what?
I think it's just both. It depends on who's got high tech and who's got the old tech. You know, the old tech is generally superior. The new tech has side effects. You know, when people are getting injections and are using, you know, recombinant DNA to start augmenting stuff, there's other variables that are unpredictable, you know, whereas if you can predict what it's going to be, you know, that's like when a skinwalker kills, that's what you have to go through, man. I'm 9 years old and I have to sting and kill somebody with my hands, a friend, a person that I love, because my family was not somebody I loved. And so part of in order to be inhabited by these spirits that will shapeshift you and allow you to become a different creature, you're going to kill somebody that you love, and you're going to kill them with your bare hands. You're going to breathe in their life as they die.
Build a website you love with Wix. For your words, create your brand, your opportunity, your breakthrough. Feeling a vibe? Run with it. From can't look away to gotta have it. Make every detail yours. Bring out what's hot. Remove what's not. Crystallize it. Instantly set a tone that speaks in your voice to your audience. Keep moving. Your site grows with you. Add solutions that meet you where you are and take you where you want to go. Smooth to make.
And it's when you do that this stuff comes on you, and that's the stuff that makes you convinced you can never be redeemed.
I believe it. So if you, all right, there's so much to unpack. I'm trying to collect my thoughts. Let's just go with the assassin route. You were a kid being trained to do that. When you were doing it, did you have to transform? Was that part of the process for you, or did you ever have to never go down that route?
I wasn't like, I didn't go that route. My route was being able to get by anything. Like, you got to be able to invade anything and be able to familiarize yourself and be understanding of how to navigate and get past people's weaknesses or things' weaknesses. Like, you want to train how to do infiltration and exfiltration with targets, hardened targets. You're going to have to learn how to get by guard dogs, physical guard dogs, wolf kind, you know, and then you're going to have to learn how to get by stuff that's like, they have a warlock that sits in this estate and they do ritual magic to do all these spells and incantations. You need to know how to get through that. So there's like, you get training by getting exposed to all these different variables so that you can be able to pierce through no matter what it is and eliminate somebody or plant something. It wasn't always just like assassination. That was an aspect of it, but a lot of it is counter-espionage and espionage. You're setting people up, right? Or you're trying to extract something like...
By the way, this was an interview with a guy like on a low-end YouTube channel. Like, you know, nobody will know about it unless it gets brought up in your algorithm. But this is an interview of a guy who claims that, you know, there is bloodlines kept alive, descendants from the fallen angels, descendants of the Nephilim bloodlines kept alive, so that they'll have, you know, godly abilities and whatnot. And this is one of the guys that escaped everything and turned back to God, and he believes something crazy. He believes that the Nephilim, even if they turn, you know, whether you're a half-breed or whatever, that even if you're a Nephilim, children of the fallen angels, the damned, that even they can be saved if they turn to God. Which a lot of people are like, oh, we don't know about that one, but so I don't know. This guy claims to be of Nephilim descendants, and this is his tell-all. There, now you're caught up.
There's this project we'll have to get into more. It's called the Jason Project, which is a secret scientific military group that's now more publicly known. It's a consulting group for the smartest people in the entire world, but they had children. And so they started this junior Jason program where they're like, yeah, we should all breed together, you know, and have these really super high intelligent children. Well, then they could be great spies. And so that's where you get into espionage as a major tacit of this. That is, they get interlocked so heavily, and you start to figure out that the vast majority of the people behind the scenes are not just connected to these religious orders, they're connected to the government. And these are, a lot of them are State Department employees. And this is how the United States military and government regulates and controls assets out of containment. People that are not doing what they're supposed to, that have information they shouldn't have, and they need to be eliminated, or you need to extract a piece of information from them. And so that's what really launched me into that realm, was right then in those mountains of the White Mountains is what they're called. But that was when I chose more. I don't want anything. I want to not be in this cult side. It's not like that was respected, but it was acknowledged. And I got opportunities to do the side of it that I thought was high speed and low drag and looked way more freeing, which was the modern American soldier. I wanted that route. But you're designed to basically always be a spy, and that you're going to feed back the family what you want. And if you're going to be put in a position, we'll open the doors for you. And that's where all of that really was birthed out of, was there in the White Mountains. And then once that decision was made, my great-grandfather was brought back to our house in Colorado. He was located there, and my father signed me over to him. He got parental rights. He got bedtime rights with me at night.
That's sick.
For a few years, until he was too sick to do anything about it. And my dad got access to the trust fund. And that was when everything went from like surface level poor middle class American to like planes, new cars, plane, new car, houses, bed and breakfasts. Like my family became wealthy, and I got thrown from freak show level werewolf Psychoville down in Arizona into the big city of Colorado Springs, which was military gods. You know, like military, it is the capital of the New World Order. Denver, the Front Range of Colorado, is 100% the place where the capital has been built and the infrastructure was laid. And so I got put into the military side of the projects there when I was a young teen. And that's where NORAD Space Command and all of this underground facility from the United States Air Force Academy. And that's where I went into the military side of the equation. And that's where I stayed for quite a few years.
That's wild. I had a guy on the show a while ago. I don't want to rehash the story. I don't even remember what episode it was called or what I called it. I think it was a member show, but he was messing with something in his apartment, and somebody called in terroristic threats on him, and he had like all this like powder and stuff. Like he wasn't making bombs. I don't think he was making bombs, but like, anyways, The SWAT team came and raided his home or his apartment, and his brother called me. He's like, dude, why is the SWAT team at your apartment right now? And he's at work. And so he just panicked and he fled. Oh gosh. And he this is in Colorado. He fled into the woods. And this is where the story for the show came up, because he's out in the woods and all of a sudden he's being hunted by translucent people shooting at him. And he said this lasted the entire thing to like a safe zone where it just kind of stopped. And he wound up turning himself in and cleared his name and everything. And I don't know, like I don't think he spent any time in jail, because he wasn't building bombs, but he panicked. Like he's the kind of guy, like if I remember correctly, he's a bug out guy kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And so
it's happening. It's going down.
It's going down.
We're heading to the hills.
We out, you know, like I've been training for this, right. You know,
he's heading to the tunnel.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but that he said that was.
Scientifically documentable event that takes place in some of these places, and that's why he chose that spot. That's why people, if you start to go to this place called Garden of the Gods, this is gigantic sandstone feature that just sticks up at the base of 14,110 foot Pikes Peak, this massive mountain. That's where Colorado Springs sits. And then it's a confluence of all these springs, these incredible hot, well, mostly cool water, but mineral-rich springs called Manitou Springs. That's where I ended up going to high school. And it's the highest concentrations of witches in the United States per capita occupy that area because it's a gigantic tunnel system that has been there from before the days of old, always been there. People have been there, and they've been doing these kinds of participatory acts. Well, the United States military moved into there on a huge degree in the 1940s and began to build during the Cold War, they began to build a lot of tunnel systems. And this is where the continuity of government operations headquarters was going to be when it came to the central part of the United States. And so that Denver is ideally situated because you have the Great Plains to the east, and you have these gigantic cascades of mountains, the Rocky Mountains, as a shield behind you. And so that's why the continuity of government, if it ever relocates from the East Coast, it will go there. And that's where the base of major military operations has embedded itself. And so when somebody stumbles onto something that might be a training, like you call it, like these are just basic kit that a lot of our soldiers have that's just not on the TV yet, you know, where soldiers are needing to be stealth technology, you know, or they're rubbing thermal creams on themselves to hide from any type of thermal imaging software. This is like low end of the tech side of the equation. But Fort Carson, which is where I was stationed, that is a massive military base. And that's where, but abreast to that, there's 6 military bases surrounding Colorado Springs. So it is a gigantic ring of this, including deep underground military bases and stuff that goes up to Denver, and that's interlocked all the way up to Wyoming, where all the communications cables are for the entire country meet. So it's a really big area for all of that. And then you have all of the spiritual side of stuff that starts in the mountains, in particular in the Front Range and Rampart Range Road. So like my family ended up moving into this little town just outside of Colorado Springs, and like giant 5-pointed star, cardinal point, where everyone gathers on the high days, all the witch crap, right? All that stuff goes on in there, and that's embraced out there culturally. It's like the norm, and it's like normal that your children are part of this stuff. And so it's good to raise children in sick families in that.
Stupid ex and her whole family's from Colorado, and that's where she went to. This Nyuka just confirmed strongest amount of witches per capita in the whole country.
So that's what that hub caters to. Whereas Colorado Springs on the other side is focused on the family, and it's like die-hard Christian side, you know, and it's like, yeah, but all the creepy occultist people are on that side of Manitou Springs. You know, we keep them over there where they have their coffin races and all the rest of it, you know.
Wow. We're gonna do an overtime with you, and we're gonna focus heavy on the military experience. But I'm assuming the answer, and it's just a yes or no. You don't need to go into detail. Have you ever been in an deep underground base?
Yes.
Of course you have. I figured you have. And it's probably not once. So, I definitely want to get into that for the overtime for sure. I want to kind of backtrack a bit to a couple things. One, you mentioned about people transforming their bodies, and that lichen is definitely that route. We've had people on the show, lots of people who have encountered these dogman type creatures. The one that comes to mind is episode 335. Kyle was the groundbreaking episode for me going into the dogman topic. I've had it before, but this was just like, whoa. Long story short, he's 15 years old, hunting with his grandfather in Kentucky, Danny Boone National Forest, the upper side of it. And it's middle of the night. His grandfather's in the truck because he was older, so they had radios. The dogs get on a scent. You hear him howling. He comes up on the scene, and he can hear his dogs fighting with coyotes. The coyotes go off. He only had 2 dogs out there. And in that fight, he heard his younger dog run off as well. So now the older dog, who's a really good hunter, really strong dog, is by himself, fights off these coyotes. They come back in, and it sounded like they came back in a pack almost, and started whooping up on his hound dog. I think it's a hound dog. Don't hold me to that, but hunting dog. And then he hears his other dog come back in. And when his other dog came back in, the fight changes. Coyotes are gone. He comes onto the scene. His older dog goes back to treeing the raccoon in the tree. He comes over, pats him on the head, and he hears his younger dog behind the tree chowing down on a coyote. He goes around the tree, and it's not the younger dog. The younger dog never came back. This was a a very large dog on all four. He said it was so big that it was holding a coyote by the rib cage in its mouth. And he said that when he came up on it, it looked at him and it stood up on its hind legs, took chase. That unfolds a whole scene where basically his hunting dog saved his life. His hunting dog did survive, but barely. And he thought his dog had died at some point. That story that he shared on the show, is there any way outside of what you shared that it could be something else other than somebody that transformed from human to upright walking dog that maybe was one of those people who weren't able to handle that and could never change back? Is that in your mind what that would be? Or do you think that there are actual creatures out there that maybe come from other realms, or maybe just like some people? I don't personally subscribe to the idea that Bigfoot's just this hairy primate that we can't catch. I think there's more woo-woo stuff to it. Do you think it's along those lines? What are your thoughts on that side of stuff?
That's a great question. Man, that's brutal. Because I think on one side of it, I think we really do have an entire subspecies of creatures that do exist mostly inside the earth, and they are not readily surface dwelling anymore. And I do believe, like in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, man, inside the London Bridge is a massive room, like a throne room, where they engage in this magic. But this Brotherhood of the Serpent, they call upon Nahash, the dragon. And
would that be in normal terms Satan?
Yeah, most people know him as Satan, right? Yeah. But like there is a great red dragon. Like it's a physical, that's what he looks like in reality. He was cursed, and man, he made him a monster. Yahweh made him a monster. And they would commune with these things. There's 13 grandfathers take 13 of their grandsons, and they bring them into these rooms and do these things on these specific times and rituals for all kinds of stuff. But the dragons tell them the future. This is like always what they've been able to do, is like Satan leads Yeshua up onto a great high place and says, I shows him all the nations of the earth and all their kingdoms and their reigns in a moment of time. He shows them the future. That's what they do. They can show you what's to come. This is why we get hunted by them. He knows if we're going to be part of his adversaries. He knows if we're going to be on his enemy list. And that's why he targets us at our youth. That's what so happens. So many people, they're like, why has my life been a nightmare from the beginning? It's because you have a purpose and a destiny that adversary absolutely categorically does not want to come to pass. It's a real life Terminator scenario. And so he sends his assets in to destroy people, to ruin their life. And those meeting places happen when they sit down in these rooms and they try to call up these creatures. It's from inside the earth. It wasn't like ethereal mist. They were physical things that would come out of these tunnels, and they would come into the room and they would consume the offerings that were given there. And then the words of the Nahash would come forth, and they would prophesy to these guys. Like they would prophesy out of the mouth of the serpent what each one of their life callings, their shots. He's the shot caller, man. It's like a pimp from prison. He's calling the shots, and you had a bunch of fallen watchers that were in prison in Tartarus for a reason. Yeah, but they got ways of getting messages out, just like the cronies in jail today, and that's what a lot of people are dealing with. They think they're dealing with the top dog, and they're like, I'm finally into the big game. And it's like you're dealing with, a private in the hierarchy, but he can masquerade like a general. And so some people are really dealing with death himself, and some of them are dealing with one of his princes. And this is what my family's covenant was with the dragon. They didn't mess around, man. They went all the way to the chain of command. They uncovered a bunch of my great-grandfather's grandfather was an archaeologist who dug into the Indian mounds out in the Ohio River Valley. And they started finding a priest class that was these serpent worshipers. And that's what they started calling upon. And they started trying to wake up and rise up Huachiblos, which is these deities, these dragon fire deities that demand.
This is in Ohio?
Where these mounds were found, it's the Ohio River Valley. Yeah.
Are we talking about the serpent mounds?
Yeah. Well, this wasn't specifically, not that I'm aware of that it was specifically a serpent mound, but it was a mound that was in an area that was now being farmed.
Okay.
And so whether or not it was specifically a serpent mound, it was not identified as that. But they ended up finding a lot of these ancient tomes. They found the writings of this priest class, and they started using their magic to call back up these fallen ones. And they were, the part of the trade is the priest class has all this secret knowledge that they then use to rule the kings with. And that's what they wanted. So that's how the Reynolds family, this is also documented in a book called The Gilded Leaf by Patrick Reynolds, who was a bloodline descendant specifically and in the actual inheritance of the Winston cigarette company, you know, the tobacco empire that ended up buying Nabisco Foods, that ended up running the world.
What relation is it to you? Like an uncle?
I don't know that I am a bloodline relative of that guy.
Oh, okay.
Patrick Reynolds specifically. My Reynolds family is the one that does the black gold stuff, all the secret, disgusting, dirty money. They're the white launderers of the money, right? But you got to have your seedy, corrupt group, and that's what my family did. They did all the dirty stuff.
Wow.
And so but in his book, in his firsthand account, they talk about the Joshua coin and them using a coin that was from Judas that he betrayed Yeshua with, and the 30 pieces of silver that was the blood guilt money. They would touch that silver coin to anything they wanted, and it would grow an empire. The cost was always massive bloodshed and a massive demand of life. And that's always what the serpent required. He wanted life. And so, like, on one side of the equation, that's what they used to build the Reynolds empire. That's what they used to go down Alcoa and all the aluminum industry and all of the Reynolds empire. That's what they used to go down Alcoa and all the aluminum industry and all of the stuff they spray on us and the stuff they poison us with and inject us with and all the variables of complexities of targeting that they've done against us. That all comes from that covenant that those two brothers sat down, did, and entered into a blood and all the aluminum industry and all of always massive bloodshed and a massive demand of life. And that's always what the serpent required. He wanted life. And so, like, on one side of the equation, that's what they used to build the Reynolds empire. That's what they used to go down Alcoa and all the aluminum industry and all of the stuff they spray on us and the stuff they poison us with and inject us with and all the variables of complexities of targeting that they've done against us. That all comes from that covenant that those two brothers sat down, did, and entered into a blood covenant with the dragon, man. And this is what the fruit of it was. Well, my family entered into that on a different route through this priest class thing. And that's what they would practice down there. And that's the same old religion that people have been using a long time. So on one side of it, I've seen physical beings that are definitely not like our animals up here come out of these spaces from inside the earth. I've seen in deep underground military bases dogmen, like you would kind of describe them, some more humanized. And I think a lot of those were experimentation and genetic splicing. I think a lot of that was gene editing stuff that I've seen. But I do believe that some of these things are holdovers from the old days. They're the last of their kinds, and they've been breeding them, right? And I believe that that's the stuff that's prophesied that's going to come back out and cause the hearts of men to stop for fear.
Holdovers that they've been breeding, that makes a lot of sense.
After these things that are coming up on the earth, you know, that's why everywhere I went throughout my youth, I could go to these tunnels and these caves and call out, and I could hear them and they would call back, you know, and it's like, it's a seductive power that draws you back into it.
You could call out to them? Like, was it like a language or a sound or what?
Oh, yeah, man. You can learn to call to them. You can go out here in these hills out here and do it. You can still do it tonight. On these full moons and stuff, you can start calling out. You'll think you'll hear coyotes at first, and then all of a sudden it's a totally different, you know, it's a different sound that starts to resonate, and then it's a different one that calls off from over here, right? You got to understand, some of these guys that you think are just neighbors and stuff or just people, like, this is what they keep in their barn, you know? This is the stuff they keep. Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, I go out hunting for these things.
I understand completely, man. I was that being said, I got hooked back into it with Timothy Alberino and Steve Quill and a lot of these guys when I was married, and my wife didn't know anything about this whole stinking world of who I was and everything else.
How'd you meet your wife if she didn't know who you were? You suckered her. You suckered her.
That's a way to put it, man.
She's still with you, so she loves you. You know,
bro. She's all in, man. She's amazing. Cool. She is my shield bearer, man. She's amazing. She has fought. We have waged a war together beyond your wildest imaginations. She has seen the full force of the occult come after us, and people slaughtering sacrifices to try to desecrate us, and people try to hunt us and murder us in front of her face.
She's seen it
in front of my children's face. They've sent special kill teams after us in front of my children's face, man. And I have seen the living power, man. Recent.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, man.
That being said, man, I do believe that there is a hierarchy, and you can call upon the Most High, man, and He has delivered us. And I've never had to fire a shot at any of these guys. I haven't had to take out their drones. I have seen supernatural intervention. I've seen their weapons jam in front of my face, like chapter in the book called Murder on Their Minds, where I talk all about it, man. I've seen Him provide supernatural miracles, because you got to understand, we're dealing with the fallen. We are not dealing with the Most High, and He owns a much more powerful arsenal. And let me tell you, at His word, all these nations, kingdoms, and thrones will bow. And it's an absolute reality. It's an inevitability. And so that's why I serve him, man, because I've seen what the power of covenant is. And I had a covenant with the law, sin, and death before in my life, but now I have a covenant with the Most High of peace and life. And he's given me a new purpose. He's given me a family. He's given me a mission. He's given me the opportunity to do the things I dreamed of when I was that little. And I used to run away in the night in Arizona, man. And I would run into the base of that mountain, man. There's these caves that are there that I just love caves. For me, it's safety in that. People call it hunting and all this. I'm like, dude, these to me were people. I'm more like a beast, man. I was ripping people's throats out with my teeth when I was a child to survive a fight. Like that does something to you when you try to see other children playing with a bat wing toy or whatever. And you're like, you're puking blood in the toilet.
Yeah.
Because of all the crap you just went through the night before, you know, and like you are unrelatable to men anymore. You can't comprehend the things that are in your mind when you have been defiled so systemically for so long. And so I just lived with dogs. I literally would flee into the yards with people and I'd crawl into the dog loose and just survive the night. But then that wasn't enough, man, because these were city dogs. Then I started looking for the feral ones, man. I started looking for the coyotes, you know, and then I started looking for the wolves and crawling into their dens because I can imitate any of them, man. I can crawl around like a dog and be like a
serious?
dog. You bet, man.
Wow.
You can get them to take you in if you know their language, if you know their gestures. You can learn all of this stuff, man. And like when you're little, when you're like a child,
wow,
they'll treat you different, you know? Yeah. And they like, man, I literally ended up living with these things. And they're like, I have this love for wolves because of that. Because I've understood what a companion can be when you're desperate and distraught. And like, these were my best friends. And that sounds so weird to people, but like when I was a child, I bonded with the animals. I wanted to murder all the people because people were monsters. I couldn't imagine a world of the living. I got so lost in the world of the dead. And I just wanted to find some semblance of innocence and purity. And I could not find it in people because everybody was manipulating me. I was nothing but an asset to them. And I didn't know which end of me they wanted. Do they want my skills? Do they want what do they want from me? And so it perverted my understanding of people. And so I just fled to animals. And that's where like I talked to these creatures and lived with them. Well, then I started encountering these other ones. You know, and you start to befriend them and it just becomes like a pack. Well, then my family would rip me away from that and move and I would have to try to find a new one. And there was this just constant destabilization. And so there's a lot of people that get caught in that world, man, and people brand them as feral children, like you might want to call it or whatever you want to call it, man, but they're survivors. That's what they are, man. They're overcomers. They're the remnant. They're the leftovers of nightmares. And you know what? They're some of the most incredible people or things that have ever been. And that's why I'm here to preach the gospel to every creature. That's what it says. My commission from my king who gave me my marching orders is to preach the gospel to every creature. That's what I'll do, man. I'll do it in the tunnels. I'll do it everywhere from the tops of the roofs to the bottom of the earth. But I'm much more familiar and comfortable down there than I am out here. This is the world of oddities where people think this stuff is like legend and myth and strangeness. And it's like you go into these families, they broker deals with this stuff. They get down with these things and they generationally raise their children to have that seed line in them. So it's a different world than what most people are used to. But I tell you what, these animals they carry a history of what this land used to look like and what these people used to be. And it wasn't that long ago. This is a short history when you think of the last 150 years in the United States. That's not long ago. It was a wilderness. And there used to be 150 million people who lived here, who raised animals and livestock and farmed and cultivated landscapes and brilliant, massive, beautiful cities. And yet they interacted with giants and these creatures that were oddities for time and antiquity.
You're talking about unwritten history.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. You keep throwing everything out here. I haven't even got to how you met your wife.
Oh, yeah. We got there.
So are you talking along the lines of like people talking about Tartaria today and like how they basically built over entire civilizations and some of these structures that we have in these big cities? Like, for instance, I've heard this and I've heard both sides of it. So in Philadelphia, they say that City Hall is actually remnants of an old civilization. We didn't actually build it. It has been here. Maybe we built on top of it or something like that. But when coming from that area, I used to run Center City, especially as like a rookie driver. They send everybody down to Center City. And so you're pedaling freight down in Center City with a freaking truck. And I can't describe to people how massive City Hall is in Philly. It's one of the most beautiful buildings I've ever seen in my life. And I've been in it. It is absolutely massive. You will get lost if you don't know where you're going. And I forget how long, but the idea of decades sticks out in my head. Like I was told that it took an extremely long time to build that building. And that always sat weird to me. I was like, how does it take that long to build a building? Like, you know, I mean, this isn't like something that was built, they say thousands of years ago, where they were, you know, making the brick by brick, make the brick and put the brick there kind of thing, or whatever, you know? And so I go off on that spiel because that's something that always sticks out in my head when I talk about Tartaria and things like that. But is that kind of like the angle that you're talking about? Like this idea that there was, you said 155 million people that lived here and they traded with giants and the cities and civilizations. What happened to those things?
Well, I wasn't really hitting on the Tartaria and the architecture side of it. And there's other examples like the City Hall in Iowa and other places. I traveled, like I told you before, 4.5 years in an RV. And at the time, mud flood in Tartaria was in. And I was like, what? I'm going to go look. So I just started traveling around to these places specifically to try to find and identify and document evidence of this catastrophic event, or these recovered cities, as opposed to the idea that we, you know, all bit these with horse and buggy and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
You know, like, I wanted to know for myself, but that isn't specifically the history line that I was talking about. I'm talking about before that, the side of it that is definitely more like when you go in, like one of the best books, for those of you that are book guys, The Discovery and Conquest of Mexico by Hernan del Castillo is the firsthand account of the conquistadors coming into the Americas and their strategies and tactics for infiltrating and enthroning a new deity known as Mary, right, the Queen of Heaven. They wanted to invoke her over this territory. And there was a massive battle between the priest class during that time. And you get to see these hierarchy of these ones that were worshiping in Mexico City predominantly, that was running a massive human trafficking campaign, all the sacrifices and slaughters that are happening for that. I mean, it's nationwide at that point. And we're talking millions of people that are being fed, physically fed through butcheries to the priests. Like, that's the way they did it. And that priest class fled north into the Americas when they got persecuted. And they came into the Americas, the Northern America, and they brought a lot of that ideology with them. And they began to use that, weaponize that power, and start to take over the people that were up here. And they began to eradicate them and butcher them and force them into compliance with this. And then the land responded with this desecration, and all these invaders began to come in. But this is stuff that they had prophesied was going to happen. And so a lot of them, they literally did not fight. They literally had prophecies that there was going to come bearded men with shiny metal helmets, and they're going to come and you're supposed to bow down and yield to them. And that's what they did. That's why you had a few hundred guys with a few horses and dogs, unbelievable hunting dogs, crazy stories in there, full armor, killing squads of people, these dogs single-handedly. It's
From Europe?
Yeah, bro. You want to talk about what dogs can do? We have no idea what dogs do. Oh, yeah. DeSoto and what he brought with his dogs in the Americas, most terrifying things that the natives had ever encountered was the dogs, because they would kill hundreds of people, like just jump from one to the next, ripping throats out. Like, these are all documented things. So I'd love that side of the history of understanding where did this all come in here, and why was there the expunging of the record of anybody who had a culture or a written language. Well, that's because we wanted to support this ideology of manifest destiny for this invasion force that was coming from Europe, was that it is our right to rule over these savages and to begin to take their territory. But ahead of that was the surveyors, and then following them was this military expedition across the West, which was to the Army Corps of Civil Engineering, eradicate the history of the people out there. And that's what they did. That's why they built dams and rivers and lakes in specific places and changed geography. They're sponging any evidence that this is a advanced civilization. So we have first-hand accounts of people that said, we've been in the biggest cities of Europe, and over here they're better and more beautiful and more grand and well-designed than anything we've ever encountered.
Wow.
This is not just one. Many, 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 many people that came over here in the beginning could not understand the capacity of the people that were here. This is the origin place of the earth in many more ways than what people think of as Africa. This place is where the first documented evidence of a horse, of a camel, of all of these languages, mummies, the oldest mummies in the world. All this stuff is here.
Here?
It's just not public.
Wow.
It's publicly accessible. It's just not popular.
You know what's interesting is that you say that, and fast forward a few hundred years, here we are. And now we look at European cities and we're like, man, they're so beautifully built. Look how clean they are, because our cities suck. Like, everything's falling apart. Nothing's built to last more than 50 years. Like, it's just, it's kind of totally flip-flopped. That's wild. So, all right, I'm going to go back again. And I do want to hit on the story of how your relationship with your wife evolved and stuff, because, you know, and we will hit everybody listening right now. First of all, we will ask the question of where are your parents today? How do you get, what's the story there? Because that's I even told you that's the question I was going to ask you at some point. But I'm looking at I also, while I'm talking here, before we go any further, I didn't say it in the beginning. I will put it in the link in the description. You do have a book. You did mention it. And I was like, dang it, I didn't mention it in the beginning, but it's called Snatched from the Flames, One Man's Journey to Uncover the Family Secrets Buried in His Blood-Stained Past. And that is available on Amazon, and I will put the link in the description of this episode. But let's talk about family. Let's start with the family that you love now. How did you meet your wife? How did that whole thing evolve? Did you ever think that you'd have to tell her this stuff? Did you have plans? If not, what spawned you telling her? How did she take it? Yeah. All that. Like, I'm very interested on the social side of this. Like,
she, when I got out of the military, I ended up studying psychology at the University of Colorado at Boulder. You know, I wanted to put people back together. I was tired of taking them apart, and I wanted to understand what the heck was going on in my mind, because I lost. When the military washed me out, man, they scrubbed my memory. They did multiple traumatic brain injuries and all kinds of specific things to try to expunge what had happened there. They don't want you telling your secrets. Anyways, I was a dribbling mess. I literally couldn't remember how to walk right, eat right. I had Post-it notes on my wall to tell me to shower and put on clothes and names. I went from savant level IQ kind of stuff to like impossibly debilitated, and it was excruciating on me. And so I just went on this path of trying to just restore my mind and get my mind to function again. And it was in the course of that I ended up going to this church out in Colorado, which is called Flatirons Community Church. And they had this college ministry at the time, and a recovery ministry. And that's really, man, where my heart planted, was in this Celebrate Recovery. They called it Shift. Oh, yeah. And there was just messy people, bro, that loved the Lord, and they loved him so much. And they were passionate about helping the wounded. And I was walking wounded, man. I was a heart halter monitor on at the time, man. I was like,
it's been years. But the events are still etched in my memory.
I didn't, like my whole life, I'm like the last man standing for some stupid reason that I couldn't understand when I was young. I just wanted to die. I just wanted to die so bad, man. All my life, I just wanted to die, and I never could die. No matter what anybody ever tried, always I lived, you know, and I was so tired of it. And I ended up going to this church, and these people like loved on me. Not the way like Christians had in the past in the same way. Like my family was Christians. I went to all kinds of different denominations throughout all of this experience. But meanwhile, my family would pedal me back out the back door, you know? And so my version of what a biblical minister was capable of was so jacked up. I thought they were weak cowards. That's what I knew Christians as. Like, I knew that pastors are easy to manipulate if you give them the right tithe check. You know, like I'd seen what a bribe did to justice. But then I finally started going to this place where it's just authentic people that just were real. And it just gave me such a joy and a hope, man. And I'm a passionate person about whatever I pursue, man. And I pursue that with everything in me. And I'm a natural, like, evangelist. I'm going to make stuff famous, and I love it. And so anyways, this college ministry exploded out there, and I was the connections lead, and I ended up meeting my wife at this college group that we would have. We'd serve pasta and talk about the scriptures and get to know people outside of Boulder. And she ended up walking down the stairs one day. I write it all very romantic in the beginning of my book, bro. I was like chasing her, you know, and she was like, not about it, dude. I was couch dude at the time. I was like living on a couch because I wanted to have this Harlequin Great Dane, great hunting dog. They're a castle dog. That's what you use to guard your castle. The master's in the house. They're wonderful. When the master's away, they'll rip your throat out. They're amazing. Anyways, I was raising this dog, so I had to live on a friend's couch so I could have this dog in my dreams. And I met her, and she was just like way out of my league immediately. And I just was like, not having it. It's not going to happen. She was like way older than me and highly successful. And I was like eating out of trash cans, you know? And so she She liked me, man. It was great. It was beautiful, man. I don't know how, but it worked out pretty well, man. I romanced her like crazy. I called them adventures. We didn't call it dating. I just took her on adventures way late at night because she used to work night shifts, so we hang out at 3 in the morning.
Dating requires putting up money.
Oh, yeah. Dating requires putting on a title that other people were not about. You know, like, oh, her sister did not want me to be with her at all. She, like, sat me down and tried to scare me off.
Really?
Like, yeah, because I was, like, young. I was, like, 19, and I was, like, bro, I was all over the place, you know, compared to what she was used to. And she's like, my sister's she deserves this, you know, and what are you? I'm like, not that. Yeah. But anyways, man, I ended up going to Afghanistan, and I was on that trip to Afghanistan that I was like, I gotta be with this woman. I came back and was like, I want to be with you. And she was like, I'll think about it. And I was like, no. I was crushed. But she ended up doing it, man. We ended up like being together, and we ended up getting married a couple of years later. And dude, I didn't tell her any of this. She knew I was a mess. Let me be clear. She was a mess at the time when I met her, too. She was a wreck from all the things I was talking about earlier at the hospital they were forcing her to do, and were just killing her health horribly. And she was sick. And so we got married sick together. It was great. We were a total hot mess. Our first year was a nightmare because I was a screaming nightmare at night. How do you tell that to somebody before you, like, we weren't sleeping together before we got married. She didn't know that, you know? She didn't know that I would have these terrors of the night, you know? She didn't know that I was a different person at night. And then all of a sudden into our marriage, my dad comes back in because he wants to control again. He wants to make the money. And I'm a highly monopolized individual to these families. And they wanted that again. And they wanted to turn on the old other side, which is this Nathan and Jason side. And they wanted to make money with that because their business was failing. They're in the bed and breakfast industry now. That's the good cover for filthy stuff that happened at a hotel. And they film it and document it and keep it in drives and create a podcast on people.
So that's
the family.
We're talking about like extra type stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I know this, but just for the audience, you're saying Epstein isn't the only Epstein.
That's like late in the game guy.
Yeah.
You know, and I know most people think that's super high level. That's still mid level in the world of families. He's not the family man in the same way, right? You can run into a different synagogue of Satan everywhere you turn, right? You can run into the great whore of Babylon that sits in Rome and Vatican City, all over the place. But then there's these old bloodlines too that are a completely different thing. And they have different ways of controlling people. And information and secrets is what my family trafficked in predominantly. And so my parents on one side, they had a great Christian front in everything they did. But inside, that's where business happened. You know, and it's because they're split personality people. One side is wholly given over to this, and the other side is wholly given over to something else. You know, and so that's what I was raised in, and it was as normal as breathing. You know, but
interesting enough, I don't know who's all read the book. He came to set the captives free, but in that book, it's talking about how the girl who ended up in a satanic camp went there because she went to church and somebody from church invited her. Watch out for these serpents in the congregations.
My wife didn't know any of this stuff, and she was not from a family like this. She grew up in like a normal middle-class American Christian home, you know, and I did go to focus on the family kind of stuff, you know. And
poor girl.
Bro, it was on. So what the trigger event that changed the whole story was my dad moved back in with us for a few weeks.
How'd you let that happen?
You don't exactly have free will. It's like a real important thing to understand when you're a yes man still. You know, I didn't have anything to really fight for besides my wife at the time. I didn't have children. And like, they castrated me when I was young. They make you a eunuch so that you can go into the king's.
Really? So even having kids is a miraculous thing.
That's what started it all, dude.
Wow.
So what happened though, my dad changed me around and he brought out the other side of me. And so you wake up in the middle of a marriage and I don't know who my wife is. And I go from being this happy, fun, loving Nate, wild guy that's shirtless all the time playing and diving into stuff to this guy that's hydrophobic, terrified of water, and is wearing body armor and carrying secret concealed blades and making poisons at night. And she's like, what? Goes by a different name, disowned all my friends, burned my phones. You know, went full protocol, like sterile protocol. She has no idea what any of this stuff is. She's like, I don't know what tradecraft you're talking about. And she's like, what is happening right now? And I changed clothes, wardrobes, everything. I started getting into this underground world.
Time out. I just got, before I forget this, you might say yay or nay on this, but what you're describing almost sounds like a Jason Bourne type thing. And they named him Jason in the movie. Does that have anything to do with the Jason program, do you think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the Jason program is for that.
Gotcha.
To activate those guys. Those are sleeper cells.
We will get into that, but continue your story. I just the dots come and go very fast for me. So.
I understand. You got a lot of dots in there, bro. They connect.
I'm just like, what's going on here?
But so I burned everything in my previous life. But at the same time, let me tell you, the saving little, like, what happened though? They meddled. That was a bad idea. Because you suddenly give a guy who has been used to being in his teens the last time he had freedom of body, and you suddenly give a guy who's in his 20s, who's got a car and who has no handler on site, you know, and this thing called the internet at his fingertips. And now you can look up anything. And this is what happens, like between 11 and 3 in the morning, I'm going to start learning. And I just start diving into all this stuff. And you can start asking questions and get into forums and blogs and backdoor access to all kinds of stuff. And I started connecting dots on who was who. Because what they wanted me to do was go after a kill list for them. But I'm not interested in that. I've got a very, very long, old kill list from a lot of other stuff they don't know about and other people don't know about. That's what I was thinking about. You know, I'm like, I'm going to entire house down. I'm running operations on a coven and a cult that was operating out of Boulder, Colorado. I just started investigating people again, like I do. And I started going out at night, street walking, street preaching on one side of it. But on the other side, I was doing surveillance and counter surveillance on these guys that were running children out of Boulder streets and starting to build dossiers and everything, you know, because it's like what I do. I'd rather live in a cave and come out and do that kind of stuff and then disappear. But I've got this wife who to me was like a lead weight. It was like a giant point of vulnerability. I live in a house. What the heck? You know, I was like ticked. So I was like, pissed all the time. I basically hated her. And she felt that. Okay. She felt that. Gotcha. You know what a wife will feel? Well, your ambivalence towards her. More than anything you ever do to your wife, she'll feel ambivalence the most. Because it's the opposite of love. It's not hate. It's ambivalence. And that's what I gave her. And I started wearing knives strapped on my chest and razor blades in my shoes. And she's going to start picking up on stuff like, why are you always wearing guns? Like, always. Like, always, you know, and I'm like, you know why? And she's like, what's that voice? Do I wonder why? Yeah, but at the same time, this health crisis happened where she got poisoned and it almost killed her from the hospital procedures that they required. And that was when she started doing the research. And I was like, if she's gonna look into this stuff, I could talk to her about what we're going through a little. Because she, up until that point, dude, couldn't hold her hat with the conspiracy very much. You know what I'm saying? Like, you test everybody out your entire life. When you're born into this stuff, all you ever do is test everybody to figure out whether or not they can handle anything related to who you are. And she was growing up, she was getting stronger. But then she got pregnant. And I ended up having a surgery. Let me go back a step. I ended up having a surgery because I had horrific, constant testicular pain. I had a lot of kidney pains, kidney stones, peeing blood all the time. Like, my body's been through hell, you know, and I have catastrophic shutdowns of my organs regularly at the time. And ended up getting a surgery to try to help alleviate that. Well, about a year after that, we ended up getting pregnant, which was to me a miracle that I knew the Father wanted me to actually have children, which meant I had to choose. This was the whole story of whether or not I give my daughter over to the family to have access to the trust fund.
Which your dad was there for. Essentially, he was there about previously for a few weeks. He would come in and stay intermittently when he wanted to do workup stuff, but then he moved back down there. He's a critical employee of massive infrastructure in the state of Colorado. Like, sits inside a bunker and controls all kinds of stuff. Very successful in that realm kind of person, but a well-placed asset if you want to destroy the entire country's continuity of their grid. He's part of the power control system of the natural gas system, so he can shut down all the power plants. Well-placed asset if you want to burn the world down. Anyways, my wife got pregnant and it was my moment of choosing whether or not we do this. And I was like, at the same time, I was starting to listen to all of these like serious truther podcasts out there by like the hours and hours, whether it was, I don't know, it was like, I think the Hagman and Hagman Report was the first one I heard, Steve Quayle, and then I heard Russ Dizdar on there, and then I heard Dr. Michael Lake. If you've never heard those names, man, check it out. You could go on for a long time on there. But that was like, that launched me into this whole realm of seeing bold men be warriors for the kingdom. And I was like, finally, somebody with some chutzpah, like in the kingdom, representing how to deal with this stuff. Because up until then, I had a track record of psychopaths winning every time, right? I always saw the bad guys win, and that does something to you psychologically. It's a confirmation bias. And then we suddenly see a guy like Russ Dizdar who was preaching to people like me who are coming out of occult bloodlines, who are deep into this ritualistic abuse and dealing with deliverance. And that's when it was on, man. And I was like, my wife was pregnant. She doesn't know any of this about me, but my family's going to want to take that baby out of her womb when she gives birth to it and imprint upon it
Like, it's disgusting what happens right away at the birth. And I was like, they're going to drug her and they're going to take her child. You know, she's not going to have any clue how they do this. I was like, we got to fight. We got to resist. I'm going to go all in for the kingdom of righteousness, and I'm going to absolutely do everything I can to sever ties with my family. And so I went to this conference called Hear the Watchman Conference down in Dallas, Texas.
What year?
2014, I believe.
Wow.
And that's where chapter 5 is called Deliverance in Dallas, and that's where I heard Russ Dizdar speak. It wasn't the first time I heard him speak. It was the first time I'd heard him speak was at a conference where he was talking about runners, guys like me, blade people, and all this other stuff. And my wife looked over at me as he was describing me, and she kept looking at me like, this kind of like sounds like you, honey. This kind of sounds like you, like more and more and more. She's like touching all. She's like, what?
How many knives can I touch?
She's like, yeah, oh dude, that was nothing. Those are the ones to just, yeah, it was crazy. So now we're down at this conference in Texas, and she still doesn't know anything. She's 6 months pregnant. Like, game is coming on time, right? Like, we got to figure this thing out. And I fall on my face at the end of his preaching. He calls like people, if they want prayer, come to the front. Man, I run up there and I fall on my face and I weep like I've never wept in my life. Just desperate for that evil, like that latent seed.
You're in charge of the savings only during the Buy More, Save More sale at Raymore and Flanagan.
Seed out. I want it out so bad. I want to be a man of free will. I want to know what others took for granted from their youth, which is to make a decision without somebody else's manipulations in your life. Like, I just wanted freedom, and I wanted my child to never have to know the world that I was born into. I wanted her so badly to get to choose for herself what her future would become. And I was so inadequately equipped to do that for her. I had nothing, but I had a willingness to fall on my face and cry out to the one who had everything. And I believed on him, and I called on him, and just was wrenching my heart out on that floor, man. And this guy, Tom Dunn, he laid down on the floor next to me, man, and was like, what's going on? You know, you're clearly upset, dude. You know, like, and I'm just sobbing hysterically and asking for deliverance from addictions and sexual addictions and drug addictions, you know, substance abuse issues and stuff. I've coped with that my whole life. You know, I was so perverted. I didn't understand normalcy with any of that. He prayed for me. It wasn't like some wow thing, but he just prayed for me honestly and sincerely and asked Jesus to heal me, man, and deliver me. And when he did that, man, it was like this giant black tree just got ripped out of my brain. That's the cover of my book, man, was like the Father, he took this hand and he took that pierced hand and he gave me a transplant. You know, he took me out of that family of death and he gave me a branch of life to live again with, you know, and that's where it started. Somebody else at the same conference, random person walked up to me, handed me this folder and disappeared, like straight up disappeared in a line I was in. I was like, what? She's like, you need to read this. And it was all these prayers for breaking the curses from generational sins of Freemasonry. And I was like, what? And I'm like, what is this? It was Isaiah 54 Ministries. It's on my website, but they burned that website to the ground after I put my book out. But I've got it archived and stuff if people want to still see that. But I went through it back in Colorado and I prayed those prayers, man. And I did all this renunciation for all of these oaths that my family had taken and that things that I had been a witness of. And that's when it was on. That's when the war kicked off, man, was because then all of the memories, everything was there at the forefront. And that's when they knew I was not going to be a part of it. And that's when I went direct back to them and was basically like, listen, I forgive you guys personally for the wrongs and the evil that you have done to me. But you need to understand, Grandpa still is a pervert. Like, and you're still taking your grandchildren to him, and that better stinking stop. You know, like it was like a showdown. Initially, my dad's like, I'm sorry, I know this stuff happened to you. I'm really sorry that it happened to you. Like, I'm the dad, I'll fix it. And then at the same time, he was like, don't tell your sisters. Don't you dare tell your sisters. You can tell anybody you want. I don't care. Just don't tell your sisters. So that's immediately what I did, right? I'm like, game on, son. You want to fight that way? So I went and told my sisters, and then it was just this, she crawling up in a fetal position and reverting back to this infancy thing and just like, I don't remember. And then they bring in somebody else to live with her, like a handler to scrub her and control her, because they have big families still that are still in, you know, and that's
your sisters
big
are still in?
business. Oh, yeah.
So when you talk to your sisters...
I have not talked to them since.
Okay.
It was the last time I talked to them.
They didn't remember at first and you were triggering memories? Is that what was going on?
Yes and no. Well, my oldest sister, I don't name any of my sisters because there's a lot of innocence still at play. I'll name all kinds of people, just not them. But my oldest sister, like, when I started talking about it, reverted back to this stuff and was like, I need help. I need counseling. I need deliverance. I need, like, please help me with all this stuff, right? And she wanted help and wanted to get out. And the next day when I went back to talk to her, she was gone. That version of my sister was gone. And they had this young guy that had moved into the house overnight. And she literally couldn't tell me anything about anything I said. She didn't remember anything that had happened. She didn't remember, like, me coming there to the house the previous day to talk to me about any of this stuff. She was just completely aloof, right? And that was my last interaction with her. And my dad freaked out when he heard that I told her all this stuff. And then I went to talk to my other sister, who was closer in age to me, at a splash pad. I talk about this stuff in my book. Had this, her and I are visiting at the splash pad. I brought my wife, Chelsea, with me as a kind of corroboration to all this stuff. And she was really responsive in a good way. But then right in the middle of it, my dad showed up at the park. And I mean, he slammed into the parking lot and came barreling over and had this screaming showdown with me in the park, calling on crazy and powers and stuff. Like, the guy went from his Christian self to this whole other thing in front of my wife's face for the first time. My dad was the most, you would have never seen a lick of scary ever until that moment. And then this other thing came out of my dad, the principality of the Reynolds family that he is in covenant with. And that came roaring out and cursed my marriage, cursed me with insanity, cursed my wife, you're going to be naked, all these horrible things. He's screaming and cussing at the top of his lungs at a splash pad. This is like a real splash pad, little children like, ee! There's this like demonic massive battle going on over in the corner. And I was rebuking him and calling, like, it was like the sword that was in my mouth was far greater than his, because I had the power, the authority of the Holy Spirit like I'd never had in my life. And I couldn't even hardly articulate the power that was on me. But he physically got up and ran away from me, screaming over his shoulder, ran as fast as he could and drove away, terrified of me. And that was the last time I ever saw my father, was that moment. That was the last time I ever saw my sister. You know, I've not spoken with any of them since, you know, because at the end of the day, they still sent my grandfather there to receive my daughter when she was born. He still flew up to the state to try to get access. I had a stinking one-man army standing in the birth center, you know, ready to run and gun with that guy if he showed up. But my family's never had access to my children since then. And now we have more children. Now I have 4 children. And that was the start of so much of that journey, though, was we're going to do whatever we can to get away from this. But at the same time, they sent a lot of stuff after us when we were still at that property and in that house. And there was a massive, long story there. That's what the chronicles our journey out of that, until we eventually wrote the book. I started speaking out on shows, and I was like, if I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna come out with everything all right now. I'm not gonna be like, I got some secret documents, you guys, you don't want to know about. You know, it's like, no, you just burn it. You burn the whole house down. That's
the best way to do it. I've been told that if you have sensitive stuff, you don't just piece it out. You drop it like a nuke.
That's right.
Do it all at one time.
Oh yeah.
And that's good that you did that.
There's still a lot of dead man switches out there. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of contingencies that are available should it ever go real bad. But she loved me, man. That woman loved on me like nobody else has ever loved me. Her name means safe harbor.
Really?
That's exactly what she was to me.
Wow.
Because I had to tell her all this stuff, man. And I came unglued on her. I mean, I became everything worst version of me I'd ever been. And she loved on me. And she was so mad. She was just enraged at the evil of what this family was. She was enraged. And then you start collecting evidence. She started going on to their Facebooks and started gathering evidence and seeing all this perverse stuff. You know, they line their boys up naked and take pictures of them and put them on their mantles. Like, you come pick which one you want. Like, this is real family business. You can walk into their house and they have
like framed pictures
of children, little boys, stacked up in the entryway when you walk into their house, so you could pick which client you wanted. You know,
and she was finding that on Facebook,
bro. You'd find this on. They think it's cute. They're like, oh, it's just cute little babies and boys and stuff. Jeez. And I'm like, no, dude. My family had a photo album that they would hand to a customer, and they could pick what version of me they wanted. Like, this is like a menu that they offer to clients. This is really how like the business works. It's like, this is still a reality. So,
all right, version of you. So it's like they pick a version and they got push the certain buttons to get that version of you to manifest.
Yeah. Then they get a code book that goes with it, and that brings that personality out.
Really?
You know, because if you want a cross-dressing girl, this is how you get that.
Wow.
And that's what that whole personality is shaped to be with. Or if you want somebody that's into different things, they have this. And so that's a code book. You know, that's like the little red book that controls somebody is a real thing. Well, sometimes you give people a page from it, and they pay for that page. for a certain amount of time. That's what they get. But others, they're going to get a page from Jason. You know, that's what the military bought from my family, was my black book, so that they could have an asset as their own. And then they're going to rewrite the program and then make it just theirs. That's what my dad didn't want anymore. He wanted back that chain of command. He wanted full control and sovereignty over me that the military took away from him. He wanted that back. That's why he went back, tried to meddle. The problem is he woke up the wrong guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a very dangerous person to wake up who knows how to burn houses.
Yeah. I'm glad we're friends. I hope we're friends.
You betcha.
I mean,
man, you're advancing the right kingdom, bro.
I like you. I like you. So hopefully you like me. Man, I love my job. I meet such interesting people. So, you know, when I was driving tractor trailer, I would listen to a lot of podcasts, and that was in the days of the wild west of YouTube, where they didn't just take everything down. You know, this is like pre-Jones takedown of 2017. You know, that was the marker of everything. And I would hear, you know, people talk about people like you, Dizdar, and he's passed, right?
Yeah, man, they killed him and Rob Skiba in the same week.
We'll get into that in the overtime. This is
My name is Cecilia. I'm a mom of 2 girls, a psychologist, and I choose to transform my PVC treatment journey with
No, but I just, so I'm hearing these stories and stuff, and I'm like, really? Is that really possible? And here I am years later, and I have all these years of experience under my belt that brought me to a point where I'm just like, coming into today, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that stuff's possible. But I really, like, I've never sat down across the table from somebody who has been in such positions as yourself. And it's just, I'm just taken back by so much in a good way. That's just like, whoa, you know? You mentioned something several times on this recording that I need to bring up. How do you, I don't know if get around is the right word, but how do you feel what's going on when it comes to you openly, publicly acknowledging the fact that you've killed people? Like, is that something that you're concerned about? I mean, as far as like repercussions from whether, like, you know, law enforcement to, you know, these shadow organizations coming forward and be like, yo, like, I mean, you mentioned about how there's been recent attempts on your life. What about the legal side? What if like a police car comes driving up to your home right after this episode airs? Like, I'd feel completely guilty about that. I feel so horrible, man.
I feel
Why
different.
you gotta say that on my show?
I feel different if it was a little bird helicopter. You know, it's a police car. A smile. You know, it's like, I think people have this idea of what law enforcement is in our country, and it's a very good masquerade for what law enforcement is in this country. There's laws that apply to people, and then there's laws that apply to others, and then there's a whole group of people that no law applies to them. And I was so familiar with that experience. Like, you want to kill somebody, and you're in the family, right? You mark the target, you mark them. You know, you might cut their ring finger off and put it in their mouth and shove a dagger through it and leave it in their jaw, okay? And you leave that at the scene. That is what's called a message to the masses, that this hit has been authorized by somebody far above your pay grade, and you leave it the heck alone. It happens all the time. There's a lot of murders that happen in this country, all over the world, that will never be on the news. Families. Like, I'm talking to a guy who's a migrant worker, and his family is in the cartel and is a sicario. If you don't know what a sicario is, it's an assassin. Hashashin is where these words come from. And he goes in, he's living in a normal town here in the Appalachians, and his next door neighbor, all of them are murdered. All of them. Father, wife, children, everyone butchered on the table in pieces. That's a message to the masses. That's not on the news. I looked it up. It's not on the news. It's there if you dig. But that's a huge, massive, could be the most unbelievable news story for a lot of these news junkies. It's never going to be there because it's a cartel hit. You got to understand who these cartels are. They're families, different families, and they are fighting a war, a quiet war. And this is why you have gray men that are out there to do their dirty business, gray women too. But there's stuff that's non-prosecutable in the United States. And a lot of it happens if you have diplomatic immunity. And that's what a lot of these people operate under, the same guidelines of that. I don't have that. I don't have any of those protective measures in place whatsoever, but it was as familiar as breathing to me to go through that world, and that was normal, that murders happen all the time and nobody ever cared. Nobody ever cared, right? But also the vast majority of what you do and you're trained in is to kill people covertly, which means you make it look like something other than an incidental death or an accidental death, as opposed to that's a homicidal death. So a lot of it is learning how to put things in people's body that cause them to die. Maybe not right away, maybe later. And so this is the arts of poisons. And that's why people will turn to the Jesuits to learn that tradecraft, because they're some of the best at it, right? That's what so much of it is, learning how to destroy people's vehicles so they don't work properly, or they suddenly just gas on the way all the way. There's lots of it involves.
Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. More performance with every drive.
Bushido.
All right, guys, we're gonna stop it right there. They're going into something else. I pray you guys. The crazy thing is, we talk about different things, and we've talked about different things on here, and some things sound so crazy that you think it's a conspiracy. And different things we've talked about, I know some people thought it was a conspiracy, and then it turned out to be true. And what you have here is a man who was naming fallen angels. He was talking about having a bloodline connected to the Nephilim and fallen angels, and different things that is biblical. So crazy to see a human being talking about something like that on a platform and it getting so much attention, because that means that a lot of stuff is coming to light. And the more and more and more stuff comes to light, the more people acknowledge something that's supposed to be hidden, the more they're just going to show themselves. So who knows what's to come in the days ahead? Who knows? All I can say is, be right. Be right in front of the Lord Almighty. Be right. Be in a good space with God. As you can see, when his dad had the principality manifesting through him, he couldn't take on him because he had the Holy Spirit in him. Have no fear, for the Lord has not given you a spirit of fear. He hasn't. And that's why, because the one with you is greater than the one in anyone else. Hallelujah. Pray this is edifying for you guys. I love you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. God bless. Shalom.
While they were there, the time came for her to have her child, and she gave birth to her first.
fuck did I just fold?
Live for the moment. The kind that changes history.
It's been an incredibly busy day here.
All right, brothers and sisters, welcome back. I'm not too sure if you guys have seen the episode we did of the man Nathan Reynolds, whose bloodline was connected to, whose family's bloodline is connected to the Nephilim, right? He escaped them, gave his life to the Lord, and now his testimony is super powerful. If you guys haven't seen that video, go back in I'll put it at the end of this video. It's also the confessionals. That's where we actually watched it. Some of you guys were wondering what the original video was. I'll put that in the description again. But there's a part 2 that I was sent. Hallelujah. So we're gonna watch this part 2 as well together because I have yet to see it. So we're gonna watch it together. Again, this is the Confessionals podcast. Tony Merkel interviewing Nathan Reynolds. Let's check it out.
Had some kind of Nephilim DNA in him, and that's why he was reproducing such large people, and he had this like unknown strength. You know, like if people don't understand, like pigs get really big, and like I had 2, and mine were American guinea hogs, which are known to be more of the smaller breed. And when we processed those pigs, they were probably about 250, 280 pounds. I mean, they're huge. And to pick up a live one is even harder, right? And so if he has a full-grown pig that's bigger than what I had, he's picking up live over the fence to just carry it away. I mean, that's some serious strength. And so it makes me wonder, like, you know, if he had that kind of lineage in his bloodline, and with what you're talking about with, you know, these biblical characters that are documented through scripture, it makes me wonder, like, how many of those still exist today? I mean, 100 years ago wasn't that long ago, you know? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it's really interesting you say that. You know, those 2 men, those 2 lion-faced men of Moab show up to David, and he immediately promotes them to rulers in his army. You know, like there is more attributes than just the physical strength that accompany this, which is intelligence and leadership. You know, those qualities that translate to effective warriors and leaders of warriors are far more valuable than just the strength. Like the reason Goliath is the character that he is because he also was empowered by spiritual forces. He was cursing Israel by his gods. Like the non-human entity side of the equation can never be lost in the story. And you must always understand there is intellectual power based off capacity of individuals. And so many of these giants are physically, spiritually binding themselves into people nowadays to where they are like the gods of old, and they are becoming like the hybrids in their own sense, and they're being hijacked and parasitically used as if that entity now has a body. You know, the disembodied spirit of the Nephilim is what was cursed to wander this earth. It was like there was no place found in heaven for these spirits, and there was no place under the earth for them to go to, and so they were wandering souls, you know, and this is why they wander about in dry and desolate places looking for hosts, you know. And it's some people, I've seen acts of strength from people, children, that are beyond imagination, impossible strength, like a giant was in the room. You know, I worked in a residential treatment center in Colorado, and it was called Devereux Cleo Wallace, and this place had like semi-locked facility, and there was like 6-year-olds all the way up to 18-year-olds for various different issues, adjudicated youth, people that are serving sentences, and then you just had like Asperger's and autism unit and all mixed together in this insane complex. And this little 6-year-old girl was freaking out, and they put them in quiet rooms. That's what they call it. It's like not a padded room, like a walled linoleum reinforced room with a serious door, you know, a cell. She's in that room, and all these staff are in there restraining her, all men, all like teenage or mostly college age guys, and they all have this little girl. I mean, arms are like this thick, pinning her down, and then she starts screaming in multiple voices in languages. Start erupt like Twilight languages, like all this like deep guttural roaring, and lifts all of us off the ground from her back, lifts us off the ground. You're like, there's no...
Build a website you love with Wix, where your words...
carnal explanation when you start being lifted and thrown around by a little tiny child. Because as much as we could sit here and try to talk about what are the genetic traces and lineage, it gets watered down fast. You're 5 generations away from a fallen angel for the parent. You're only at less than 5% genetic stock. You know, like it diminishes rapidly. But the spiritual doors that get open in people's lives allow access to entities that are exceedingly more powerful. You're taking a Goliath and shoving it inside the 6-year-old little girl, a warrior for thousands of years that's never had to sleep, that's only had time to plot revenge and seek psychological manipulation techniques to destroy people's lives and to feed their own insatiable lusts. And that thing gets shoved inside of a child with no restraints. No restraints. And it is just all on darkness. And you can feel the atmosphere in the room shift, like with icy, horrible, cold, dread, anguish. You know, and I started praying out loud in the name of Jesus at the time, like just in Jesus' name, we bind you from affecting this little girl, and we command you to get off of her and be silent and leave her. And it was like, it's not like the movies. I know the movies like to show it as these insane, ridiculous, crazy, theatrical, heads rolling and puking all the time. Sometimes demonic possession presents like that, but the vast majority of times it's authority. And it's a command authority, and you're superseding to the judge of all the earth to intercede in a situation where we are way outclassed and outgunned and outmaneuvered. But we're calling upon the one who holds the world in his hand, and that's a real powerful, all-consuming fire that can do that. And it gave that girl her sound mind back instantly. It wasn't some crazy, horrible thing. She just was her again. And that other thing was not there. And so the majority of the encounters that I have seen, when I've seen superhuman strength, have come from what I would say are demonic or spiritual possessions of the fallen. I would contend that the vast majority of the times I've seen that. When I got later on into life in the military, I saw genetically altered men who were nothing like people in specific body groups and areas of their stamina, their endurance, or like some of the guys, they would take these injections and their legs were just powerhouses, and they were kicking through doors, like reinforced doors, and doing unbelievable feats of jumping and acceleration, but other areas of their body weren't affected as much. And it really messes with them though, because there's a side effect where I feel like everything in pharmaceuticals has an unknown side effect, and that's the stuff that punished them in other areas of their mind. You know, other areas of their body became incredibly weak or degraded as their body tried to deal with the abreaction of it.
There's a guy that I had on the show. His name is James, I think. I just want to double check. Yeah, James Zubsky. I think I pronounced his last name right. He's out in Washington State, and he owns an outdoor store called Marge's Outdoor Store. Episode 591 was the first time he was on, and he was on again since, where we focus more on the super soldier aspect of him. And he is somebody, and I think I might even talk about this with you last time you were here, but what you just said is exactly what he described happening to him. He got these shots, he's in the military, and you get injected with stuff, and he noticed after a certain round of shots, he could do certain things he couldn't do before, but it wasn't everything. Like, it wasn't like he was just like bulletproof. He could all of a sudden just run the mile in God knows how fast speed. He could do certain arm exercises and max out machines with no problem, but other exercises he was more normal. That's exactly what you're talking about. So like, what when people are being injected, say military people are being injected with stuff and being able to do these kind of feats, is it that they are being experimented on through the injections and they're just a lab rat, or is it that they're being injected because that's with a specific serum that gives them the ability to do things that they specifically are desired to do by the people injecting them?
Well, not necessarily by the person injecting them. More often than not, that's a grunt. But the individuals who I would say more often than not, are psychological, industrial psychologists that are waging out war games. The military has a lot of reasons for why they do what they do. And so much of when they're doing Finders program, if you ever had a recruiter show up to your school and your high school and try to rally people up, they have a very different job. That's one of the only jobs in the Army you get fired for not fulfilling a quota of. There's not a lot of jobs where you get kicked out for not meeting a quota. Recruiters have a totally different pressure. But a lot of the psychological testing and a lot of it's called the ASVAB, which is a generalized intelligence, personality test, skill set. And they say, this is how they pick your MOS, your job in the military. From day one that you start interacting with the United States military at a recruiter's office, or there is already tens of thousands, nowadays, millions and millions of data points that have been collected about you digitally since you were started out, since your mom took your first picture of the baby and put it on Facebook. Every one of us now goes through a different kind of human terrain evaluation with a profile that is known. That is what builds out so much of what they're going to cater your experience for the military for, is they already have something in mind. As soon as you take the ASVAB, it's going to tell them a lot more about you than you know about yourself, because people are very good at weaponizing intelligence, and they've been doing it a long time. The military is better at it than most, the United States Navy in particular. But those tests are designed to figure out what cranks your gears and what you would be best suited at doing for the military, as well as how to manipulate you and control you and find out this is what makes them want to do what they do. So when guys start getting pulled into these other programs, they get when you go into in-process, you go to this place called MEPS, which is like where you're processed into the military, you get a lot of physical examinations and a lot of they're going to do all kinds of things like duck walk to see what your flexibility, your mobility is like, whether or not you have flat feet, hearing and vision tests. They're going to start probing you physically and more psychologically before they go ahead and make those kind of final assessments. But when you walk out of there, there's a dossier now on you biologically. There's blood tests that are done, and then they're going to start looking for specific precursors, not just internally, not just mentally, but internally.
Like in your blood and DNA?
Yes, because in your blood and your DNA is going to have a lineage of your ancestry and your heraldry that most Americans, most westernized cultures, we have literally thrown out the door as worthless nonsense. But when you go back not too many generations, you have 1 million ancestors, not long ago. And it is a very serious thing, ancestral heraldry, and how it impacts people generationally. And one of the predominant levels of that is how generational curses play out versus how generational blessings play out. And there's people that sit behind the scenes and maneuver that through oaths and curses of their children or their grandchildren to take inheritances from them later on. And these things physically manifest in their life later on. But that ancestral heraldry plays a major role in how engineered DNA altering viruses are injected into people to augment them. They're going to get different ones based off of what is already latent in their DNA, what is already a precursor that's incentivizing it. Because I have much higher concentrations of rods and cones in my eyes, which facilitates me being able to see and transition from day to night vision much faster than most people. It's not anything like superhero level crazy, but then after I got injections from the military, it cranked up to a level where I didn't need a lot of augmented light at all. And I was able to see much more readily in darkness. That was highly advantageous for the type of clandestine work that I was doing. And I loved that as an injection, right?
So
that came from a chimeric. You don't have nods. They break, they fail. You need batteries, and they're very obvious to other people that you're an operator. How many of you roll around with night vision goggles?
True, for
it
sure.
Super stands out. Invisible killing was what I was into. Had nothing to do with being a uniformed soldier under the code of military justice. Had no bearing on my life.
So you're saying the injections that you got enhanced your eyesight even more, that you didn't, not that you didn't want them, but you just didn't need them. Where other people in the room that maybe were doing the same job would need them,
they have a flashlight.
You didn't
right?
need a
Or
flashlight.
a chem light, right? I could take
like a cat.
Yeah. Yes, and this is where you get into chimeric. See, if you don't know what's in it, you have no idea that you're now becoming a chimera. You know, that they're taking jaguar. They're literally, there's the botanists out in the field and the cryptozoologist guys out in the field finding these rare species of once lost animals, or they're recovering their DNA from their corpses in museums, and they're taking that and they're bringing that back in for experimentation. What those guys are doing is selling that to pharmaceutical companies. That's where a lot of the research people meet the pharmaceutical industry. That's all part of the big arm of the military. They're the first secret sciences that go in as deep black budget projects. And that stuff's 40 years up beyond what you and I, normal civilian human creatures, get to see. We get their junk drawer leftovers when they're used up and tired of it, like cell phones. They're like, now you guys can have them. You know, like they're like transhuman neural links. They're like, yeah, now the population has been preconditioned to be able to accept this, that they should become cyborgs, you know, whereas soldiers have been augmented from World War II, you know, and they've been building little plutonium batteries and shoving them inside people and powering up electronics since the 1950s, you know, but to us, that's like a little bit out there, a little hard for people to understand, put it in science fiction books and precondition the populace so they demand it and they want it. But that kind of augmentation strategy is what changes people and makes them no longer like that. The problem once I had that with my eyes is I started having color vision problems. So I could go through this rapid transition of being able to see more readily in the dark, but then I was losing depth perception and I started losing my ability to differentiate between the red-green spectrum, because that's what got augmented. So there's always these like unknown side effects when you go and play in this game, and that's where I think at the end of the day we're all guinea pigs. I think the United States, I believe it was under Bill Clinton, it might have been Ronald Reagan, who removed the safety standards so that human experimentation could be conducted on United States prisoners and United States soldiers. So like they say publicly, you know, we don't experiment on our own people. You know, we obviously don't give injections to pregnant women and tell them it's safe and effective ever. You can trust us. We're certainly for the good guys. Anyways, but the normal version of that has been tested out on soldiers and prisoners for decades. And so that's always where first line experimentation programs go, is onto prisoners and onto soldiers. I think a lot of them have no idea. A lot of them didn't volunteer for a super secret soldier program and signed a document that said, we're gonna make you Superman.
Thanks, man.
No, most of them are unwilling guinea pigs, and all they're there for is to get the blood out of them after the fact. And they, even if it kills them, they don't care. They get the data. They're just like all the Nazi doctors that are doing the human. There's nothing different. Mengele and all the rest of those guys, they all operate in here, and all their sons and children do the same.
So, all right, before we go too much further, I just had this like thought that we just need to tell anybody tuning in for the first time. I told them to go back and listen to the first one, but just give me a 1,000-foot overview. Who are you? Just so that people understand. Like they're like, this guy's going 1,000,000 miles an hour. Who is he? Give him like the briefest background of who you are. Is that even possible?
Oh, yeah.
It's so.
Okay.
It's
I can
so
do an elevator pitch. It's all right, bro.
There you go. Let's do the elevator pitch.
Yeah, my name is Nathan Reynolds. Hello. No, I come from a family of people that were deep practicing Luciferians and who had been utilizing old world religion to try to rule and govern people from the shadows. And I was used as a battery bank for perverts and
so tasty, it could make Poseidon switch to a spoon. Holy divine taste from the Greek gods.
People that are more than willing to exploit their children in order to blackmail other people and control them and manipulate them. But that was never wasted. And so my family instead took the inevitable shattering and the splitting of my soul and weaponized it in dissociative identity disorder and split personality in order to try to engineer parts and pieces that were more conducive for the family's interest. And so my family comes from a long heraldry of people that do have an appeal to kingship and thrones and powers and majesties, and they execute that as the divine right to rule. They rule from the shadows because they believe anonymity is without question far more effective as a means of controlling the nations than publicity. So that was, I grew up in a family where secrecy was the currency and blackmail was the most effective way to build currency. And so I was a part of that from earliest years of my life, and ultimately led me into a life of a lot of violence and hatred and learning the arts of silent killing and how to terrorize targets. And I believed they were bad guys when they would tell me who to go hunt. And some of them were 100% convinced and witnessed them doing the worst kinds of things to other innocents. Others later on, you kind of figure out that I'm just a wet worker for other people's interests, and I'm not ever really going to be a free man. And so I was bound up in that for many years of my life. And I got emancipated to the United States Army as a junior in high school at 17 years old and began to work in their clandestine teams, you know, just being a spy for them. And
we went over to Jason as well in the overtime. I think we've reached the 100th floor, so let's just bing.
Let's step off right into normalcy.
That's the elevator pitch. But I want to kind of go back to what we were just talking about, because my next question was these injections and stuff. Do they wear off? I mean, have you noticed a decrease in your ability to be able to see as well as you once did at night?
Every one of them, I believe, does have a shelf life, and a huge part of my life getting out of the military was trying to detox my body, because I was sick, wrecked. I had multiple traumatic brain injuries. I was barely cognizant. I couldn't remember. I had no short-term memory. I couldn't remember people's names. I couldn't remember to stinking wipe my own butt after the toilet. Like, I was seriously disabled. I got out of the military and going to school for psychology in Colorado, and was out of my mind, struggling to put two sentences together like a bumbling idiot. And I knew I was dying, man. I had a heart Holter monitor, and I was hooked up to trying to figure out what was wrong with me, going to neurology clinics. I knew I was a mess. And I believe a lot of that is because there's hardwired kill codes built into the technology. On one side of it, when you're no longer theirs, they turn it off. And that is a nightmare, because now your body's filled with all these nanoparticles and programmable matter and all of this disgusting black goop of stuff that is foreign contamination, and your body fights back. And some of the weird oddities of my family's history is that we ate horrible crap all the time. And so I learned early on, like, puke lots immediately, detox fast, sweat hard. Like when my body thinks something's a poison, a known poison, yeah, man, there's a lot of cannibalistic blood drinking and consumption of horrible things. Your body, in order to survive that, learns how to evacuate. And detoxification is one of those things I've been using my entire life to try to remedy that stuff. And I started using every bit of detox protocol I could, and diatomaceous earth and black walnut and wormwood and heavy, intense workouts and saunas and sweats and cold water. Like, I mean, my life has been devoted to trying to get healing and restoration outside of all the offers of the military. No VA, no support. I don't want anything from any of these people. I don't trust any of them after what happened and what I witnessed inside there. So I've been on my own trying to heal and cleanse myself and restore healing to my body for, my entire life now.
So, all right, based on that, your family history, and you said your name is Nathan Reynolds. I want a clarification. Are you coming from the same family that is the Reynolds stuff that people have in their kitchen?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I was going to say, with that, then I was going to say, like, are they putting human body parts in the kitchen stuff, you know?
I don't know about that. I know where they're putting human body parts in the pig supply and the pork supply. They're disposing of bodies. The Reynolds family used to own 60% of all the crematoriums and moratoriums in the United States and funeral homes. And they would dispose of bodies that way too. Pig farms. Because a pig will dispose. A couple of pigs will dispose of a body in a few minutes. And then they feed that to the populace. Yeah. Don't eat pig.
That's you need to raise yourself.
Could not strongly warn people against that enough. Parasites of hookworms are serious things. That's why a lot of Southerners are what Southerners are. Understand something. Southerners, and a lot of their speech and their cadence and their rhythm, it's hookworms. 9 out of 10 times.
Really?
1 for 1, they are ruled by parasites. Detox them, their brains turn on, and they're sharp and capable communicators almost immediately. Serious. Tapeworms and hookworms come pouring out of them. But they were mostly fed pork diets. Whereas out west, you see a lot less of it, and in the north, because beef tended to be the predominant thing. Sheep before that, but beef tended to feed them a lot more often, and they're far less prone to feeding you the parasites. So, something to consider. Change your life forever. Do a detox, man.
Well, I got like a whole freezer full of pork right now.
Yeah. That's something strong to consider, bro.
Even the ones that I raised?
Bro. It's really, there's a serious thing about, he gave us some instructions in the scriptures to try to keep us away from stuff that's definitely deadly. Pig is 100% an animal we know gets possessed by demons. Absolutely. The legions that come out of the two men, the demoniacs in the tombs, where do they go?
Pigs.
Straight into the pigs. And the pigs are fully possessed, total possession. Think about this. The power, the spiritual possession capacity of one man, two man, depending on which account you're in, filled a herd of pigs and it drowned them in the sea. That's because those spirits, when they lose their assignment on their target, they better bring a sacrifice back with them so they don't get their stinking lunch eaten by the higher principality that's ruling them. Those guys got possessed from a ritual of Bacchus. That community was raising those flocks of pigs for rituals to Bacchus, where there was this drunken revelry and this possession, total possession through sexual depravity of all things, and they would rip, the climax of the event was ripping apart the pigs and eating them alive, drinking the blood and consuming them. Those guys were possessed during that ritual, and they could not get deliverance after it was supposed to be over. That's why they're out there in the tombs. That's why the whole community knew who they were, because this is supposed to go away after the festivities die down. But they stayed naked and running around, and nobody could chain them up. Like, that's the power that's in there. But understand, this is why swine and pork is so heavily warned about in the scriptures. Like, don't eat it. Don't eat it. When you abstain from these things, like my family and I just started trying to eat the way that the scripture said, like literally. And it was unbelievable how many of the lights turned on in our brains, and like why it was valuable for us to try to find clean sourced food. It literally led me to become a farmer and a regenerative agriculturalist, because it was hard to find real food. It was hard to find food that I didn't know with certainty wasn't tortured before it was killed, which does a lot. Adrenocortisol is a serious thing that gets shunted into the bloodstream when an animal is terrorized before it dies. All that cortisol gets shunted into the meat. That's why an animal tastes gamey. If you've ever eaten a gamey animal, that's because it died scared. Like if you kill a fish and if you catch a fish and you let it suffocate to death by throwing it in your cooler, it dumps blood all through its muscle tissue filled with cortisol. When you cut that fish open, you will literally be able to see blood in the tissue. That blood is what causes the gaminess, the fishiness of fish. But if instead you cut its arteries by its gills, and then you kill it in the brain and cut its other vein that's on in the base of the tail, and you actually bleed that thing out, it'll keep for weeks without any of that smell. It's incredible what happens when you butcher animals the right way. And you like, even how you did butcher your pigs. Quiet, no scary, not a feedlot.
It was quick.
No, you're not bringing the cattle into the chute and they're smelling blood and feces of all.
That's super interesting. Because I don't know who all knows about the whole adrenochrome situation. But if you don't know about that, read up on it. When it comes to children and fear and adrenaline, super wild. So to hear him saying that stuff about animals is even crazier.
All the other animals, and the death is in the air, and they're terrified. That feeling is by design. You never have to kill animals that way. You don't have to do that if you try to design a system that's a beast. But when you do that and you feed that meat to people, let me tell you, it's full of that blood. It is full of that cortisol. It is full of all those compounds that are not good, not beneficial, and they're detrimental. Versus, like, you go and learn how to do artisanal butchering. This is how I redeemed a lot of this crazy, insane stuff in my life, because I love sharp knives and I like killing things. I'm gonna just say that. I didn't enjoy always killing people, but I really enjoy giving something a dignified death. That makes sense. And to me, there's no more dignified death than up close and personal and intimate with something that's a sharp tool. Like that's what I did with sheep that I raised. That's what I do with chickens I raised. I learned how to treat them with respect and kill them in a way that fulfills this contract that we've had. I've given you shelter and food and a wonderful, abundant life, and now you're gonna help to provide for my family. And I bless you and I thank you for that life. I respect that animal. That's how it's supposed to be done. When you eat animal that's killed that way, it tastes different. You also get to eat by the sweat of your face, and you get satisfied in a way that nothing from a styrofoam package can ever give you. Yeah. So that's why I try to call people back to raising their own animals, and to, if not, support the people that do. Find a guy who does it the old ways and does it the right way and support them. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Around here, that's real popular. Like a lot of people do their own homesteading, and they'll sell their crop and things like that to people around that maybe don't have that opportunity to do that, whether it's where they live or whatever. What you just said about it's interesting because you said you enjoy killing, and that's obviously like a very unique thing, right? But I've heard it before, and it's interesting because this guy has a different background than you. He's never been on my show. I don't think he ever will be, but he's local to here, and I've had conversations with him, and he has said things that make me feel that he'd never told me he enjoyed killing, but in conversation with him, some of the things he'll say, it's not normal. Like what you just said. You said the quiet part out loud, right?
I did.
And
I almost didn't want to.
Yeah. But like, he's gone through intense military background, where he spent, I think it was about, I don't know, 6 or, I think he says 6, maybe 10 years of actual military service in the Marines. But I spent like almost like 2 decades doing operations, you know, and the stories he has is just wild. But I don't want to say exactly what he said to me to make me feel that way, but he said something to me that made me feel like he still desires a specific type of kill that he hasn't gotten yet.
Yeah.
And he didn't say he enjoys killing, but what you just said reminds me of that. Now, he doesn't claim, at least, to have a background like you, and I don't think he does. I mean, he does. That's interesting. He does come from a high-profile family in the military, and from what I understand, even his siblings are like him, their backgrounds. So maybe I should probably talk to him in more detail about this. Now I'm thinking about it, it's like, oh, maybe there's something there to pull at for him. I wonder if he has any gaps in his memory. I doubt he does. I think he would have told me by now. But it's interesting. Let's just keep it away from what your family history is, and the fact that his family does come from a higher end military family. Do you think it's something with how the military trains their people and how you kind of were trained up even before the military, that it's a mirror image that creates people like that? You know, like, cause from what I understand, your training started before you were military, and so you have a different history, at least theoretically, than him. But you both come to a similar.
Trauma.
You think it's trauma?
Trauma tends to be the common denominator that is sought after by all operations teams. Trauma. No dad. Another big one. That's a big one. You know, broken homes, violence, abuse, systemic manipulation, chronic desire to get out and being inescapably trapped. These are like prerequisites that build monsters. Learned helplessness is the behavioral way of saying it. I mean, we're raising generations of them by the millions right now. A bunch of people that feel impotent, unable to stop the nightmare that's happening out the door, feeling trapped, without fathers, without leaders, without any hope for deliverance. It messes with a man. Bad.
Drives rage.
Anger. And what's sought after most is not type A personality. Go get her, get it done. Dominant man. Competitive.
They can make that.
That's easy. But that's better geared towards grunts. That's better geared towards traditional warfare. When you're looking for people that do clandestine, third option, covert work, you want somebody that's passive aggressive. A passive aggressive personality style is far more advantageous to work with to create clandestine killers than any other profile. So that person that tends to stuff it real effectively and have a great poker face and be the chameleon. That's what's more often engineered and cultivated. So that's like when you take these personality tests, or your children take them in school, it starts immediately. The first testing every one of these children in every school system in the United States take are designed to start finding them immediately. This is what GATE is, gifted and talented programs. This is what these special education programs are. So many of what people are sending their children to is designed to recruit and cultivate and handle and manipulate next generation warfighters, next generation newscasters, next generation politicians. It's all designed to facilitate that process. But when you look specifically at people that have psychopathy, right? This searing of the conscious and this ability to completely have no relevant understanding emotionally with those that are people, you know, often that gets seared before they're 8 years old. You know, that's when splitting is most readily capable of being done, and shattering of the mind and dissociative patterning to be able to begin, because then those broken pieces of an internal neural network are able to be worked over by handlers later on in life. So that's high on the list of, like, on you're taking a Q&A at the doctor and it says, do you come from a family of physical abuse or alcohol or substance abuse? Because a kid who grows up with a mom who's an addict understands the difference between two mommies, one that's high or coming down or looking to score. The very different mommies, and they immediately are preconditioned to that kind of stuff. So that's why the CIA recruits guys like that. That's why they look specifically through records for those types of attributes. So in very deep military families, it's different. I wasn't raised in a overt military family at all. My family was handled by military people, but nowhere. We were a splinter cell family. We could not be ever noticed and affiliated with the United States military. There is no U.S. Army background by design. You know, we are what's called a stay-behind operators. Like, these are people that are designed to stay behind enemy lines and let the whole entire country get overrun until they're activated. And they just keep making more and more and more clones of these sleeper cell soldiers who make more generationally until they ever are activated. That's how my family operated. And so by the time I got into the United States Army, I started being surrounded by normal grunt kind of guys, and guys that are just, you know, hoorah, but have never got their hands filthy, soaked in blood, and have no idea what it's like to puke down another man's throat because you're so scared. Like, people have no idea the depravity of violence, nor is our culture really suited to listen to their stories. And at the end of the day, it's the lack of safe people to talk to that has kept so many of us buried in the darkness. We don't know who to trust with what we are and who we've been, and who is a friend and who is a foe, or who's here to just manipulate us and handle us and use us for somebody else's filthy desires. We understand everybody's a liar. Best to start there and let them prove themselves by their fruits, whether or not these things are true. And it's really hard because you're isolated, you're alone, and you're your own worst enemy. You will sabotage every relationship you've ever had. You will ruin anyone that gets close to you to try to keep them alive. Like, the hardest man I have to deal with in the mirror is not some other guy who comes to try to kill my family. It's me who seeks to ruin my own family. There's a reason 90% of warfighters lose their marriage. Yeah. The silent suffering victims of our wars and our clandestine secrecy organizations are our children and our spouses. They suffer in the land of, I don't know what happened to my husband, but he can't tell me. And that's wrong. That's not the way he designed it to be. He says clearly in the scripture, what war fighters are supposed to do when they come home is spend 7 days just talking to each other outside the camp. Don't go home to wives. Be with each other. Decompress, share your stories. In World War II, the United States military was very good at helping the veterans coming back on ships, spending weeks together decompressing, talking about all the horrible stuff.
Get it out.
Get it out. Talk about it with other guys that get it and aren't going to look at you like a monster because you got to go home and talk about cutting the balls off of some guy and strangle him to death. Like, violence is infectious. Radical evil is highly infectious, and the gods of war are unbelievably powerful. It takes over and possesses people, and good, normal Christian guys that went to Baptist church every week, when they came home, had to stuff it all in a box because the culture doesn't tolerate that kind of depravity. People saw Saving Private Ryan and suddenly had a paradigm shift, and they're like, oh my gosh. You can't even imagine what it's like to wrestle hand in hand in front of people's children and kill their father and then have to kill them.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys did, and they need to be able to talk about that. So if you can learn, like I talk about my wife in the book, her name literally means safe harbor. That's what she provided for me. That's the single most important thing that woman ever provided to me, was a safe harbor where I could talk about horrible stuff and she not run away and leave me.
From the North Pole, I'm sending my St. Bernard pups to keep Chris.
Well, side note, because I'll forget to say this later. Do you think she'd ever come in and talk?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
We
should arrange some time.
It'll be great.
I know, not without you, but like I know you got the kids and everything, so you.
I know, but we do tag team style, bro.
Okay.
For one of us to be able to do this, the other one's gonna have to be able to do that.
I got you.
We don't let other people watch our children.
I got you. I mean, you can bring them.
There's no baby. Oh, we do. They go everywhere with us. They are.
Yeah.
We're a HEADZ, man. We are a tight knit crew. There's not been many days I'm ever away from them, nor them from us.
Yeah.
You know, there ain't no grandma and grandpa hanging out and taking them, and we don't
Certainly
have
not.
babysitters and all that stuff.
I understand
We raise
that.
our children.
Yeah. Anybody who doesn't understand, just listen to the first episode. You'll understand why there's no grandparents involved.
Yeah. Not on my side.
Yeah.
My wife has a good family.
Yeah.
She got normal.
Yeah.
Mercy.
Yeah. Big time. So you were talking a little bit here, and you even brought it up a little bit, the chameleon aspect of the assassins and stuff, and we should probably pull at that thread a little bit, what that even looks like, and like, all right. So when you say chameleon assassin, you're talking about somebody who blends in everywhere and is the silent killer, right?
A better way maybe of saying it would be a perception manager. You know, that the big art of learning is how do people respond to other people? And generally they frame people in their mind based off of an initial, when you first see somebody, within about a 3-second period, you've deduced about 80% of everything you will ever deduce about that person. There's a preconditioned pattern that every one of us has based off of our culture, our climate, everything. How we've been engineered by corporate media, all of it, to frame people quickly, and depending on what part of the country you are and what kind of community and people you hang out with, it's framed differently. And so much of weaponizing that is learning how to become what people expect to be seen in any given context or situation. That's where the chameleonic aspect of clandestine operators are. That's where espionage and spies operate in, is becoming like their environment perceives them to be, what should fit the scene. A chameleon physically changes its color patterning to match the background noise. That's a gray man. The gray man principle is to mirror the environment of that area that he's around. So when I go into a normal big city, it's not expected to have the big straw hat and the big John Deere thing. That is an outlier instantaneously, right? If you speak even with certain types of accents, you're immediately junk drawed into people's idiot bin. Even you and I were talking earlier before here, like you even don't want to go to certain places because you think you'll be branded as Latino, right? And they're going to think you're an illegal and they're going to treat you different. But if you put on
the long beard, if I have that long beard,
no, you got to go for the long beard, bro.
If I have the long beard, they think I'm a terrorist, man.
It's your
They've
super
said it a
weapon,
million
bro.
times.
It's your super weapon.
It's my
super weapon. Your manly hair is your super weapon. Bodily hair is a super antenna. Don't you ever doubt it. It's an extension of your nerves. Try it out. Anyways, read number 6. Samson was Samson for a reason.
I got you.
But that inability for you to maybe conceive of how then do I manage that guy's expectation on that field? Like, I changed outfits constantly. And it wasn't noticeable until I was married. Then suddenly I had I noticed my wife didn't do that. I had suddenly, having a spouse changed my standard of norm. Because when you only ever hang out with you, yourself, and I inside the inner world, you don't notice it. There's nothing to contrast it to. But I noticed that she didn't change outfits based off of every single area of town we were going to. She would wear one thing. And I was like, yeah, but don't you understand that these people are going to expect to see somebody who looks like this, acts like this, talks like this, walks like this. And so literally being able to put on that person. If you're wanting to go out here with Bojang Jangles out into the sticks, you got to know exactly how do country folk around here talk when they got their John Deere tractor. Hey, what's a day look like for them? But it's not just the mental idea. It's becoming that. That's the difference between somebody that's been programmed and has different personalities. It's like you literally, authentically, in the die-hard heart of yourself, become that person. When I want to infiltrate an underground tunnel area to find out who are the pimps in an area, I literally, physiologically, psychologically, I completely become one of them. I become them as they are, right? And what they expect to see from, let's say it's a John, and you're imitating a guy who's looking to score a girl, or you become one of the drug addicts who's fiending, right? Do you even know how to imitate people that are coming down specifically off of one drug and trying to score? Like, people don't tend to sit down and watch their neighbors enough to understand what all these different facets and features of our society at all the different levels look like. But the guy in the corporate suit's looking to score too, and he goes and deals with a different kind of drug circle. And so being able to put on these different personalities allows you camouflage to get past people's guards. And that's 90% of all the legwork for doing anything like penetration testing, and you're trying to infiltrate and get beyond people's natural defenses. That comes from doing all the legwork ahead of time of understanding your target, understanding who they are, and becoming exactly what they need you to be in order for you to be invisible. Because that's everything. You know, if you look like a big, scary, buff dude, you're going to be treated like a big, scary, dangerous threat to somebody that's on guard duty. But if you look like a completely tiny, helpless, lost, wounded little child, they're going to only see you as a victim, and they'll be incapable of seeing your neck coming into their throat. That's the goal. The goal is to get all the way in up close like a praying mantis who slowly and incrementally works their way forward and decimates their prey with rapid violence from something that was seemingly a stick. That's chameleons. That's what splinter cells that operate in behind enemy lines do. They look like fat people. Like most SAS like guys that are actually operating in clandestine teams, they're like not good looking at all. They don't look like good, strong, big, buff Navy SEAL guys that you see paraded around as our elite warriors. Like they're generally look like lumpiness. They look like now they could smoke you in a marathon. But these guys have a completely different set of blending in. They're middle-aged Americans driving a beat-up Toyota Camry, right? They can make a phone call and get anything they need, but they operate from the shadows by design. And a big, buff, scary, militant guy is very obvious. And so those don't fit into most people's norms unless they're infiltrating that community. Then they're bulking up, then you're getting the creatine and all the roid rage, baby, and you're just becoming that guy, if that's where you're being sent in and targeting. But chameleons are designed to be ghosts until they are 100% absolutely horrific, and then they disappear back into the different, you call it the invisible college, where you slip back into a different identity and you change your hat, you change your clothes, and you disappear and become somebody completely different. That's the danger of an assassin. They don't look like anything noticeable, and the person you saw back before there has changed that has utilized signature reduction and augmented their face and their cadence. Like, I used to put thumbtacks inside my shoes in different spots so that when I was walking, I could press on that and make it incredibly painful. That changes your cadence. That changes your walk. It makes you limp, right? Things like that. Or you put little things inside your mouth to augment your cheekbone structure so that facial recognition doesn't have the same means of detecting you. You know, there's a whole lot of facets and features that are there to help facilitate that process. And some of them come from very good, deep training. Others can come from people that just figured out street smarts when they were young and were around a lot of crime and a lot of gangs. Those guys figure it out too, how to survive.
You know, what you're talking about reminds me of Christian Bale and how he's able to change the way he physically looks for certain roles. You know, like if he's going to be Batman, he's looking jacked. And there's been movies that he looks like just a rail, like a depleted...
Insomniac.
Yeah, just... Is that what the movie was? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like... That's kind of like what I'm picturing when you're describing this. Just somebody who has the ability to do such things. There is... I don't know how recent this was, but I just heard about it, I think this morning, actually. There was some kind of prisoner exchange with Russia and another country. I don't think it was our country. But two of the prisoners that were given back to Russia were spies. And they were in this, whatever. They wound up having children. It was in a Latino country because the kids spoke Spanish. The kids had no idea that they were actually Russian and that their parents were spies until, I guess, it all kind of went down and they got sent back to Russia. But I mean, I think these people lived in this other country for 20-some years. They just became the community and culture that they were placed into. And that's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Absolutely.
So it's like these people are spies, and I think we often associate that kind of aspect with people who are spies. Like, you don't know they're here, they're just spying. But you're saying assassins as well. So it's like they just live among us until they're you know, they get that call like Jason Bourne, you know, and it's just like they get triggered into doing it, and
for sure.
They're woken up. But in that process of whatever, I guess it's of what they are though, right? It's not like they're totally just out of it.
Well, they're not like
wild story. I mean, every time, you know, Nathan comes on, well, the first time and that time I just seen very, very wild. I'm going to put the full episode in my description for those who don't watch the full episode. But it's just very interesting to me to see somebody come
moving like a gypsy. Hello everybody, welcome and welcome back to the channel. Let's get another message to see what it is that y'all need to hear at the moment. As always, take what resonates and discard the motherfucking rest. So let's see what's happening for you guys today, shall we? Oh, we're gonna actually kind of take a look at why people are going a little bit crazy over you. Because it's coming both ways, okay? You got the good people that just rave and, you know, they love you. They love everything that you have to offer, your perspective and everything. But then we got the people that are going crazy, like envious, jealous, like just... And this is because they no longer have access in your life. Like, it's been a theme lately. Okay, so I don't know if it's the holidays, people are in their feelings, you know, this is a timeless reading, so, you know, it could be around the holidays that these people were heavily thinking about you, but listen, like, got me up all night, smoking, drinking them love songs, you got me up all night, and then we have, every time I sip a little, I think about you a little. So we have somebody up all night drinking, honey. Yeah, like mad drinking. So let's see what's going on here. So why are people going crazy over the collective? Like, what is it about you, man? Like, I feel like it's your accolades, honey. It's what you have to offer. Okay? Again, with the live yesterday, people just feel a little bit entitled. So, I mean, why are people going crazy over the collective? What's happening here? We have the North Node because you're in your purpose. We have the 10th house and the North Node. 10th house MC. So whatever it is that you do for your career, whatever it is that you do for work, earning money, your legacy. Hey, we're not doing that. Way too early. Thank girl. Capricorn energy's here. You're direct, you're firm, authoritative, and you mean business. You ain't taking no ish. We also have Leo energy here, so confidence. We also have Aries, so Aries, Leo. Your leadership qualities are why people are going nuts. Okay, 222 on the timer. Your decision-making skills. Okay, have definitely something to do with your career, and the fact that you're in your North Node. Now, actually, I think that's your South Node. Okay. Now, that's still gonna stand. This South Node with the Moon, comfort. Okay. I don't know if people find comfort in talking about you, thinking about you. You feel me? Got me up all night, smoking, drinking these love songs. You got me up all night. Anyway, let's see what's happening. Let's dive deep, shall we? Why do people have... Okay, so why are people going crazy over the collective? Fuck me. Definitely your confidence, honey. They can't shake you. Saturn, well, okay, are we getting into this 7th house? Okay, so these are karmics that are coming through. There's lessons that need to be learned. I just heard you're the catalyst. So you're a lot of people's like catalyst, okay? for learning, maturing, self-control. These are people that have no self-control. Okay? Absolutely none. Emotionally impulsive, doing things that they really don't need to do because they are in their feelings, in their emotions, and they may not like the, reaction. They're expecting one certain type of reaction from you, and yet they get a whole completely different reaction. So this is why they're going a little bit crazy. You kind of are put into people's lives to help them elevate and to help them grow. You're very practical. Again, 10th house, Saturn, that Capricorn energy. You were being practical with these people.
Jim Beam Black, age 7 years for a richer, smoother flavor.
Okay, they couldn't manipulate you. They couldn't get you to act or behave reactive, right? They couldn't get you to be reactive. Now, partners, companionship, marriage, relationships, could be people that were expecting you to choose them. This is kind of giving me a little bit of a pick-me energy. This is why they're going crazy, because you did, in fact, not pick them, okay? You chose yourself, and it's driving them nuts. And not only did you do that, but you're able to get out of your comfort zone and have the confidence in saying pretty much F you. Like, I ain't about to deal with that. So you chose yourself. And this is why people are going a little bit nuts, because they, I don't want to be a broken record here, but they need to take accountability for their own actions and the cause and effect that their own actions have. Okay, this is part of the lesson. Can't just go around treating people any certain type of way and expect them to hang around. That's just not how it works. So I don't know if all their life they've been treating people a certain way and those people have been taking it, but you didn't. And this is why you got people going crazy. You're also not really buying into their conflict. Okay, so these people could be harassing you, right? Going crazy, a little bit delusional, harassing you because of their beliefs and their... So they believe that you have a certain type of relationship dynamic or a certain type of effect over their life, even though you may not know them at all. Don't even know you exist. Okay? If it weren't for, them bringing it to your attention. So you have people going crazy in all sorts of aspects. Like, some people are very, like, I don't know if they think that you are manipulating a situation. This is the thing. So you got people going crazy because they're looking for people to blame for their own demise or collapse of their own life. Okay? Should I say, yeah. These could be people, that are, what is that, keyboard warriors? Okay, keyboard warriors going nuts. Because you trigger people. 7th house, Saturn, you're a natural trigger for people, so you're gonna have people going nuts. Okay, this is meant to have some sort of breakthrough and get them onto their north node. This is part of your purpose. Okay, because a lot of people with the south node and the moon, they're in their comfort zone. They're comfortable being a certain type of way, getting away with certain things. And it's worked out for them for so long until they met you. And now you got people ruminating on you, thinking about all sorts of scenarios. What you've done to cause some sort of effect in their life. Like, it's giving... A lot of people's lives are collapsing, like timelines are collapsing now, and they're looking for someone to blame. And that person, unfortunately, is you. So, let's see. Why do you got people going nuts? Why you got people Virgo? Because you keep alchemizing the energy, Cancer. You keep alchemizing their emotions. They can't get you in your emotions. So they're a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs right here. Okay, you're aligned with your path. You're also emotionally aligned. Okay? Their poison does not affect you. You're insightful. Also, your spirit team, they're going crazy because of your spirit team, okay? Because you peep them. You always be knowing what people are doing behind the scenes, even if they're trying to be sneaky or they think they're sneaky, they're not sneaky. So, the fact that you always find out is making them go crazy. And not only do you find this out, but you You have, you and your spirit team are working together on ways to alchemize it, stop it, send it back, whatever it is that y'all do. Okay? They going crazy because it's their own energy that's making them go crazy. It's not even your energy. It's kind of like bouncing back off the walls. Also, what you have to say, making people go crazy. Let's see, why you got people going nuts? The moon and so your outlook. They can't get you to see something differently. They're trying to get you in your feelings here. Okay? Your mission statement, it's your expression and how you express your feelings and how you express your emotions. Your aura, your approach, your impact. Okay, you have a way of like hitting people in the feels a little bit. Now this is good, and it's you take the good with the bad, but it's giving me a good, like, you affect people on an emotional level that has a positive impact, and people go nuts for it. They really like it. They enjoy it. Okay. So let's get on with it. Saturn in the 7th house, what's happening here? 7 of Wands. You're cutthroat. Okay.
Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. More performance with every drive.
Oh, let's see. What do we got? Saturn, 7th house. What's happening here? The Wheel of Fortune, the Ace of Pentacles. Oh, gosh. Here's the Moon, the Ascendant. Okay, Page of Swords. Okay. So the energy's getting sent back. Or there is a way that you being able to alchemize, you create change, okay? There's something here about growth, okay? You create change, you create growth. These are people that don't want to grow, don't want to change, were quite comfortable living how they were living. But they were hurting other people. So you can only do that for so long before karma kind of catches up with you. You got, it's people in their feelings. Also, a lot of people enjoy your company, okay? So people are going nuts because people enjoy you and they want you to be disliked so bad, and it's not happening. It's not happening, honey. Okay? The more they wish for people not to like you, the more people like you. So, and that's a lesson that they have to learn. Hell, they probably go around, nobody likes them. That's why they hating so bad. Like, man, if you just looked and checked yourself a little bit, then you would know. But you're also very mature. There's something here about gossip, too, and people watching you. Okay? They can't sway things. They can't change things. Definitely got people in their feelings, honey. Yeah, Ace of Swords. Virgo and Cancer, what's going on here? That alchemy. You're organized, okay? People go crazy over your organization. Oh my god, the Devil, the Three of Swords, the Knight of Wands, listen. Here's that Capricorn energy with the 10th house. Okay? So their toxicity, they're heartbroken, okay? Maybe they tried to be flighty. See, this is giving me a player, this is giving me toxic. It feels like you played the player. Okay, you beat somebody at their own game and they're butthurt about it. Like, don't play stupid games if you don't want to win stupid prizes, you feel me? So this is why people going crazy. Because they try and play stupid games with you and then they end up winning stupid prizes. The devil's trick. Okay? Then we have the Hangman, where they need to stop and think about what they're doing. Saturn, the Devil, lots of karmic-y energy. It's karmic, right? This is why people are going crazy. It's their own karma. It's their own lessons that they need to learn. And you just so happen to be the catalyst. And now they need to watch. So there is something here about people watching you. Okay? Three of Swords and the Knight of Wands, they broke their own heart playing you. So again, with this play stupid games type thing, they could have tried to play you. they could have tried to play you. Okay? Get you in your feelings, get you hooked, and then make you feel a certain type of way. It's like a weird power control dynamic. And it's pathetic. It really is pathetic. Okay, so somebody or people tried to come in with this 7th house, get you hooked on them, get you obsessed with them, and then they were going to cut you off or do a bunch of brutal, mean things to you, and yet here you are playing the player. So it didn't quite go as planned, now did it? Now they're up all night drinking, and every time they drink and sip a little, they think about you a little. Actually, it's not even a little, it's a lot. Okay, it's very, like, you're insufferable, really. For real. Okay, so this is why you got people going crazy, because, man, they really do try and play stupid games. Let's see Ascendant over here with the feelings. Yeah, control the Emperor, like, listen. What's over here? Knight of Swords. They were so quick to judge. 6 of Pentacles, Knight of Pentacles, slow something down. Okay. So we have the Knight of Pentacles, and then we have the 6 of Pentacles, and then we have the Knight of Swords. So one is really, really fast. We have all these knights. Okay, it's how you move. It's driving people crazy because of how you move. Like, again, with this little tea and the man on the teapot, you always get the tea, baby. Whether it be right away or later on down the road, you always get the tea. Nothing's hidden. And they think, oh, I'm going to be hidden. Like, they'll never know. They'll never know that I'm so sad about them. They'll never know. Yeah, you do. Guess what? You do. For real. You dream about it, you see it. Your spirit team tells you. You know exactly how these people are feeling. And they can't stand that. They don't like the fact that you know how they be feeling. Even though they try so hard to, like, hide it. And then here they are watching in the background. Like, what are they watching here with this Wheel of Fortune? Judgment. So Spirit's calling judgment on the situation. What exactly is that Page of Swords? The way they talk to you, okay? Knight of Pentacles. So again, and here's the 10 of Swords. Their lives are collapsing in on itself. And they thought they was good. See, with that Ascendant and the Moon, so people thought that they was going to collapse your life, when really, in reality, it backfired and it ended up collapsing them. Now they're stuck and they're hooked, okay? This Cancer, this Moon energy with, hey, go, come on. No. Hey, no. None of that. Anyways. Cancer and the Moon energy and the 3 of Swords. This is painful for somebody. Okay? And now it's like a slow rise. I don't know if these people, like, you just keep steadily growing. Okay? Drives them nuts that you keep on going at a very steady pace. Let's see. Let's see. That's too many. Hips that sway when you walk. Yeah. What is it? They're trying to tap into your energy. Okay, hold up here. See, coworkers. These could be ex-coworkers. For real, for real. For real, for real. I'm getting hella ex-coworkers here. What, you mad? They mad that things didn't go as planned? Oh. Joke's on you? Yeah. What drives them crazy is that you were able to walk away from a job or a situation at the job where they tried to get you. They tried to get you. And now they got God. Okay? Now they're trying to tap into your energy and they can't. And it's driving them crazy because they can't tap into your energy. Okay? And the fact that you can tap into them but they can't tap into you pisses them off. Like, for real. Bigger plans beat smaller people. They're small. This is why they crazy. This is why they going crazy. Because they're small people. And bigger plans, God's plan, beat smaller people. So I don't know what kind of genius plan they think they were pulling here. But in the end, you come out on top and everything that they've ever known is collapsing in on itself. Hidden regret, sadness, depression, and remorse. That's this. 3 of Swords. So they're mad and they're sad because they got bit by their own toxicity. So they fell into their own trap, and this is why they're going crazy. They laid out traps for you, and then they ended up falling into it. And not only that, anybody who they tried to recruit for said trap is also falling into it. And now they're going nuts. And that's karma. That's karma. So I don't know if you're just on a steady rise or a steady incline, slow growth here. But, and I feel like, you know what, this is going to be a long karmic cycle. With that Knight of Pentacles and the Page of Swords to the Wheel of Fortune, this is going to get, it's a long learning process for this person or these people. Okay, you can't just go around plotting and planning on anybody here. Yeah, I don't know what you think this is. But you got co-workers for real, for real. Ex-co-workers, just co-workers. Okay? What's this? Flowing with creative innovation, star of the show, and highly passionate. So you are highly passionate. You are the star of the show. This is why they're going nuts, okay? Now, I am getting like a good energy with this too, okay? A lot of people love your innovation. A lot of people love how you are expressive and how you talk and how you communicate. You're very funny. You're a very funny person. You're an enjoyment to have a conversation with. Okay? You're gonna give me one for that Knight of Swords. I feel like I'm missing something there. Queen of Pentacles. So you're, okay, so now they're seeing that you're, so they tried to slow something down or end something. So now this is why they're in a longer karmic cycle. They're gonna be learning something for quite some time. Okay? So now they're seeing here that you're moving on quite quickly. Okay? And what they even perceived, so like say somebody saw you and they kind of figured out or just knew where you were going, but turns out it's 10 times better than what they thought or where they thought you were going. Oops. So it's driving them nuts. It's driving them nuts that you keep getting blessed and their whole world is collapsing. Like I said, don't play stupid games. You want to win stupid prizes, you're going to win stupid games. You know what I'm saying? God dang. You don't find them attractive. And I feel like it has more to do with the way they behave than it has anything to do about how they look. Yeah. Hips that sway when you walk. What's this? King of Swords. Yeah, the Two of Swords. You block somebody. You either spoke some truth and blocked somebody. You didn't want nothing to do with them. And they were obsessed with you and you didn't want nothing to do with them. Absolutely nothing. No. Gross. And I don't know if this person thought they was the biggest dog on campus. God damn, the loudest in the room. Big dog on campus. You ain't shit. And again, with this hawk here, okay, there is something here about you getting guidance of what to walk away from. So this person thought that they had you with their big, you know, game and their whole bravado and this and that, and you saw right through it. Now they going nuts because you saw right through it. You continue to see right through it, and you know that they just sitting in their room crying. Crying, going nuts, like literally going crazy. I wouldn't be doing this reading if it didn't come up. Collective. Making people go crazy. Yeah. And you walked away on top of it? How dare you walk away? Right, Sophie Doe? And you had the ability to walk away. Like, it's not even, if this is a job that you walked away from, 2, 2, 3, 4, You had another one lined right up. So you had the ability to walk the fuck away. It's driving them nuts because no matter how much they try and get you, you always seem to get out. You always seem to have like a get out of jail free card. Okay? And then now they're followed in their own traps. So these coworkers, you got coworkers going crazy probably because of your work ethic. These are people that put you in like, yeah, the devil. They put you in weird ass conversations, weird ass competition. We have the devil here. 10 of Pentacles. This is the 10th house. Your MC. It's your work. Okay, you seem to do things very effortlessly on the job. Doesn't take much brain power for you. Doesn't take much effort. You just get it done efficiently, effectively, and you're very innovative in how you do it. You got bosses mad at you because you can do their job better than they can. Then we have the death card. So you could have left an organization. Hierophant and the death card. You could have left somewhere. Bye. You think I need this job? It drives them crazy because you didn't need it. These are people that need that job, and here you are just working it because it's fun. That won't be for all of you, but that's for some of you. Okay? You don't need the job. See this devil with the 3 of Swords and the Knight of Wands? Okay, so somebody tried to, shit where they eat, and you're like, nah, I don't want no part of that. And it hurt their ego. It made them look a certain type of way because they probably ran around the whole freaking courtyard telling everybody that, ooh, watch, I could get collective. Watch me, I can get them. Now they're going crazy because not only did they fall into the trap that they set for you, but they didn't get the prize. These are toxic ass motherfucking coworkers. Jealous ass, toxic ass. Now they going crazy. And I'm just telling it like it is. Listen, there's some toxic ass people out there. I know not everybody's toxic, honey, but damn. You got these people that are so toxic and so mad that they couldn't get you to fall into the trap that they laid, that now they are literally going nuts trying to lay more traps. And they keep falling into the traps that they laid for you. Up all night drinking, and you keep peeping this. And it makes them even more mad because you know that they up all night drinking and sad about it. Mad about it. Going crazy over it. Well, hot damn. In their feelings. Because you moved on quite quickly. You didn't need to think twice about it. Your intuition said move? Okay, we're moving, baby. God puts more opportunities right in front of your path. Don't worry, I got you. And the fact that you are always okay drives them nuts. Yeah, they're trying to tap into your energy. Right? Like, revoked. Ace of Cups, they're trying to tap into your emotions. Get you to feel some type of way about them. It's given love spell. The Hermit. They're thinking long and hard. Yeah, we have the 3 of Swords and the 10 of Cups. Oh, if they could only end your happiness, okay? 3 of Wands, 3 of Pentacles. But you turned your back on this. 3, 3, 3. 3 of Swords, 3 of Wands, 3 of Pentacles. Trying to tap into your energy. They cannot. Okay? Now they're reflecting on what did make them happy. And they're heartbroken because they no longer have it. You're probably no longer at this job. The fuck? This is giving old job.
Without Headway, I can't imagine that I would ever be taking insurance.
If you want to play all the retro games from back in the day to Donkey Kong, Mario.
They're trying to tap into your emotions. They're trying to get you to see them differently. They're going crazy because you refuse to see it differently. You see them for who they are, not what you want them, not what they want you to see them as. And that's what pisses them off the most, is you saw a roach for a roach, not a butterfly. Bigger plans beat smaller people. These are the traps. Yeah, exposed. God exposed these idiots. Okay? They're just so mad that it didn't work. They're so mad. They thought that they had it in the bag with all the slander, with all the, you know, HR BS, because this is work. They thought they had you. This whole group. A whole group against one person. Happens all your life. And you got these people going loco because they just cannot get you. They will never get you. They can't. And you're there to trigger a lesson. Now everything's collapsing. Their lives are collapsing. Their job is collapsing. The people that tried to, you know, congregate and go and talk and do all this and do all that, that's collapsing. That collapsed in their face. They thought they won. They didn't win nothing but a stupid prize. And now you sitting there laughing all the way to the motherfucking bank. I know that's right. I know that's right. Yeah. Yeah. And now they going crazy because you're the Queen of Pentacles. You will always be okay. You got God. Okay, you got the universe, you got God, you got your ancestors, and you unfuckwithable. And I'm pretty sure that these people thought that they could fuck with you, and they can't. They thought that you was just blowing smoke. You don't even know what you're talking about. You know what you're doing? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. This is fated, too. This Saturn with the 7th house, justice, is fated. With that Wheel of Fortune, Ace of Pentacles. So they tried to take your money. They tried to slow you down through slander, gossip, and guess what? They didn't. The Queen of Pentacles, and you quickly accelerated upwards. So the more that they tried to, you probably accelerated up out of a job quicker than what the divine, you know, had planned originally. They're trying to do what now? Okay, they gotta go. So we're gonna set this up for collective. We're going to make sure that they're okay until they can get into this job, because this job was not supposed to happen until this timeline. But since they want to fuck around and find out, we're going to have collective win like a small amount of money or some shit. And then they're going to float until they get to that job. And then once they get that job, then boom, trajectory. So God's always got you covered. Bigger plans beat smaller people. Small-minded peanuts. Little peanut brains. Goodness gracious. Yeah, the 4 of Wands and the 6 of Wands. This is celebration. Celebrate good times. Come on. So, bigger plans beat smaller people, and you are being celebrated. Okay? Healed. Healing. Divine timing as well. So, you see this divine timing? What was I just saying? Well, since they want to mess around and find out, we got to get collective out of there. And we're going to bless them right in front of their face before they get out of there, just to rub some salt in the wound a little bit, because then maybe, just maybe, they'll learn the lesson of not doing that to people and not being so jealous and envious of the fact that somebody out there can do their job better. Like, these are people that get so bitter at the fact that things just seem effortless for you. You just know what you're doing. Like, I don't know, man. But damn, some of you guys could have MC Aries, Leo, Libra, Capricorn. You're celebrated. You're being celebrated. This is success, victory, celebration, putting up on the pedestal. It's driving them nuts. Because bigger plans beat smaller people. And they thought their plan was so big and so great. And, oh, we're going to get her. We're going to get him. Cuckoo. So, flowing with creative innovation, star of the show, and highly passionate. Why are people going nuts? The Magician, because you know what you're talking about. You're a spiritual leader. We have the Empress, we have the Magician, and we have the Hierophant. So, Taurus energies here, Libra, again, with this, you know your worth, and you can manifest anything. You're actually a master manifester with the Hierophant and the Magician. This is somebody that knows what the fuck they doing. Okay? Very passionate about it. You can create anything. You're the Empress. Divine Feminine. Okay? Man or woman doesn't matter. You can literally, you can pull shit out of a hat and it drives them nuts. Like, you can literally sell ice to an Eskimo. Maybe you have good salesmanship or whatever the heck, okay? Either way, you're a master manifester, and you know exactly what you're doing. It drives them nuts because no matter what they do to try and affect your money, you come up with a creative solution, and then boom. They can't stop you. Yeah, celebrate it. Bigger plans beat smaller people. Toxic ass co-workers and work environments. Oh, you know what's funny is they thought that you would have to be there, that you needed that job. Honey, no. What? You're the magician and the Hierophant. Let me just go create something else. I'm gonna go somewhere else. I ain't stuck here. Y'all think that this job is so great, this and that. No. No, you ain't foolish. So what drives them nuts is the fact that you can go anywhere, do anything, and be anything, you know?
You're in charge of the saving only during the Buy More, Save More sale at Raymore and Flanagan.
They thought they had you. What is that Knight of Wands? You know, oh, the Three of Cups. Three Cups, Knight of Wands, and the Devil. So they were plotting and planning. This Knight of Wands, trying to make you probably look a certain type of way. That guy's, it's driving them nuts because they couldn't make you look like a certain type of way. Okay? They could have got, you know, HR involved. They could have had bosses involved, management involved, all sorts of toxic shit, making up stories, fabricating things. The Ace of Swords and the hips that sway when you're walking. You're like, all right, bye. See you the fuck later. Toxic ass. Just so toxic. And the whole company, the whole, like, department is going crazy. You left and everything imploded. And it's going to continue to implode and implode and implode and implode. Yeah, Justice and the Eight of Cups. It's Justice and here's the Nine of Pentacles. Oh, you're just fine. Justice and the Eight of Cups. Hips that sway when you walk. That Knight of Wands. Yeah, we're going to take you up out of there. Because that's justice for you. So what's got them going crazy is in the end, you got justice. Before they could get you, you got them. So say these people, these coworkers, these toxic ass mofos, okay? They tried to trigger an emotional reaction out of you. Trigger. So you brought it to management's attention, okay? Then they want to sit there and group together and fabricate a whole story. Gang up on you and say that you're the problem. That's an injustice. So God's like, all right, we're going to have to get you to leave. So before they could fire your ass, you quit. And now they all looking like fools. Because all that shit's imploding. With their fabricated stories and their lies and their reactive abuse and their narcissistic tendencies. The whole thing is toxic. Toxic ass environment. Mishandled the one thing that's going to be bringing some light up in that place. Now they go with that. That serves them right. They're absolutely going insane. Crazy. Hidden regret, depression, sadness, remorse. Knight of Cups. Eight of Swords. All up in their head. Can't stop thinking about it. Why did I do that? Or I can't believe this happened. Trying to tap into your energy. Ace of Cups, Knight of Cups. They want you to be sad that you lost a toxic job. The fuck? Hell no. Listen, that Hierophant and the Magician, you are onto way better things. You know, you don't gotta clock in, clock out somewhere that you don't want to be. You will never have to do that. And if you do have to do it, it's for a short amount of time. Because bigger plans beat smaller people, and now you're being celebrated. And God got you. And you know what? God got you, boo-boo. Knight of Cups. And you know that they're sad, they're depressed, they can't get out of their head, they're burdened. Tower, because things are imploding. Not only in their life, but listen, slowing down, things are slowing down. Tower. And they want to keep talking. They want to keep evil-eyeing. They want to keep being bullies and stuff like that. Now they literally going nuts because you were the one, like, you were the person they couldn't get. And the funny thing is you're always 10 steps ahead. So even if they were plotting and planning and trying to do something, you were 10 steps ahead. You knew the moves. You knew exactly what they were saying. You called it before it even happened. I bet you that these motherfuckers gonna try and do this, this, and this. And boom, they did. They tried to do this, this, and this. Oh, all right, yeah. Didn't see that one coming. You know. Now they're going crazy because nothing that they try and do, nothing that they tried to say, you know, it didn't work because you were always 10 steps ahead. And here they are bullying you because you have an intuition. The fuck? Bullying you because of your belief system. How you like me now? Drinking, listening to all these love songs. Like, I don't know what the heck. Yeah, the lovers. Like, what is with the lovers? Like, I don't. The King of Cups. When? The Death card. Because now you're gone. Now you're gone. I realize my love for you was strong. And I miss you here. Now you're gone. Man, these people, yeah, Five of Pentacles. They would not know love if it hit them in the face. Because these are people that don't even love themselves. They see somebody like you, they instantly don't like you, instantly trying to plot and plan, and instantly are putting you in competition.
Meet Basil Hayden Bourbon.
Bourbon on the rocks. Same for you?
Surprise me. How you like me now? So now everything's imploding. And that's why you got people going crazy. So this is more so directed at a very, very toxic work environment that you have left or are about to leave. And you got people going nuts because they tried to get you and they couldn't get you. This is justice for you to walk away. Hips that sway when you walk, you got the truth here. With these toxic ass coworkers and these toxic ass work environment thinking that they so high and mighty and that you need it. Hell no. And what drives them nuts and even more is the fact that you never needed it. Okay? So we'll get these two and then we'll close her out. Yeah, reckless or impulsive, and then we have reactive. So yes, again, they tried to get you to be reactive. Reactive abuse. Okay? And then they gang up and say, well, no, look at collective did this, collective, and they would all, this is like a teamwork reactive abuse type situation. They were reckless, they were impulsive to try and get you to react a certain way. And maybe when you did react a certain way, because you had enough of their bullshit, they tried to use that against you. Collaborate, work together, fabricate stories, work against you. Because if you have enough people telling the same lie, it's more believable. Huh? And they thought that you wouldn't know, like, how stupid did they think you were? So they're going crazy because you're a lot smarter than they thought you were. Okay? Using flattery. You even have demonic energy that protects you. So what has them going nuts is the fact that they're getting haunted. You even have demonic energy that protects you, okay? And this type of energy, don't fuck around. And then we have using flattery, so I don't know what this is. Why are they going nuts? Because you rejected something. Yeah, Bagheera. So this is your familiar. Okay, so some of you guys actually have, like, spiritual familiars or just familiars here, okay? They're going crazy because you're so protected from all walks of life, from all energetic vibrations. You're just that, like, you're so protected. God and the universe have an answer for everything. Everything. He's gonna play fire with fire. He's gonna set fire. Quite literally. Okay? Reckless or impulsive. Why do you have people going nuts? Yeah, the 5 of Wands. They were reckless or impulsive, trying to create drama, trying to create chaos, being in competition with you. 3 of Wands. But you saw it. 3 of Wands, 3 of Pentacles. group, reckless and impulsive, trying to group up against you. And they're going absolutely nuts. And you know what? You could not even be at this job anymore. And guess what? You are still present. That's what pisses them off even more, is the fact that you ain't around, but you around. Do you feel me? You know? Reactive. Trying to get you to be reactive. Yeah, the Five of Cups. Now they're burdened. See? Hidden regret, sadness, and remorse. Ten of Wands, Eight of Swords, and the Tower. Because they were emotionally reactive. In competition. You rubbed them the wrong way. They didn't like you. They tried to get you so bad. And you not only peeped it, called it, saw it coming, tic-tac-toe, but then you had the ability and the opportunity to be able to leave. Bye. You know what I'm saying? Damn. Now they stuck in the mess that they left for you. The trap. Because they can't leave that job. They need it. They need it. And you are up and out of here. The Magician and the Hierophant. Literally can manifest whatever you want. Sell ice to an Eskimo. What do you want? What do you want to do? God asks you, what do you want to do, honey? Okay. We're going to get you there. So at first, we're going to float you. And then you can go there. Drives them nuts. So you even have demonic energy that protects you. What's this? Knight of Cups. See, right here. Hidden regret, sadness, remorse. They regret this because they were reckless. Okay? And now I feel like there's energies or entities that, yes, I'm going to... Listen, they're haunting them. Things could be happening at home. Yeah, Seven of Pentacles. You want to invest in this BS? Well, that's what you're going to get. So what's the demonic energy? The Seven of Pentacles and the Six of Cups. Their past actions. The devil, co-workers. Okay? If that, you reap what you sow. Seven of Pentacles. What you invest in day to day, it's going to build and build and build. And they want it to be so toxic. They caught the attention. Now they're getting that right back. It's Wheel of Fortune. So Bagheera here, you're familiar. King of Wands, Ten of Wands. So that Ten of Wands is like, keep coming up. So they tried to place the bird. Yeah, listen. Reckless and impulsive, arrogant. This is why they're going crazy. Because they were arrogant, they were reckless, they were impulsive, they were loud. They were clapping, celebrating before anything even happened, celebrating, and now they're burdened by their own BS, by their own lies, by their own plans. They're burdened. And now shit is falling apart. And that is why, collective, you got people going crazy, especially these toxic ass coworkers and toxic ass work environments. Yeah, because they tried to plot and plan and it didn't work. And now their whole life is imploding and the whole department's imploding and they're wondering, what the fuck? And now they're watching you going crazy because here you are sitting on your throne as you should be and watching it all unfold and you are not even there. So you get to see it and watch it unfold without actually even being in the room, and that pisses them even more. It pisses them off. And they know that you know. So yeah, that's what I have for you guys. If it resonated with y'all, hit up that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Motherfucking Vibe Tribe, and I'll see you guys down below in the comment section. Bye for now.
Did you know you could be entitled to a 5 or 6 figure payout if you suffered a serious injury at work, like a broken bone, torn tendon, or needed surgery? Yes, even if the injury happened months ago. Most people say
The elf on the shelf has a magical friend, a ring by giving.
There are people who believe that their bloodline comes from Nephilim. There's this thought that the Rh negative bloodline is like a Nephilim bloodline. There's like 15% of the world is Rh negative, and of that 15%, 90% of those people tend to have paranormal encounters.
These supernatural things that we experience, people experience. So you've got the Sasquatch behind you, or, these things that you're looking at. They are supernatural things or spiritual things coming into a physical world. There's a bit of crossover, but there is also these Nephilim, which is kind of the which Genesis chapter 6 talks about, and then you have the Nephilim tribes in Promised Land that God told Joshua and Caleb to wipe out completely. So these things have been in our historical Bible, and so we're kind of seeing some of these things that might be Nephilim. We're kind of calling them that. What's your take on that? And if you're okay talking about some of those things as well.
Yeah, so I think that is definitely something to be thought on and considered with this stuff. And it's something that I started thinking about in, I'd say, 2017 when I started the podcast. I remember having, I never was taught about Nephilim in church. And growing up, it was just something that never popped up. I went into Bible college and never heard about Nephilim. And it wasn't until I heard an interview with a guy named Gary Wayne, and he started talking about his Nephilim, and I'm just like, what is this? And I started looking at it, and it started like a light bulb went on in my head. And, when you brought up Sasquatch, Bigfoot, people have these experiences, and what's weird about them is, one, we can't ever really get the evidence for this thing. Like, it's been around for at least the 50s, in a pop culture sense, and people, thousands of people all over the country have said that, and in Canada have seen this creature, but we can't ever get evidence of it. And there'll be evidence where it's like large footprints, and you're following a trail of these tracks, and all of a sudden they're gone. They're just gone. Like, where did it go? And it starts making you think, like, is there a supernatural element to this topic of Bigfoot? And then when I heard about the Nephilim, and I started looking into it, and especially in Enoch, which, even that alone, I was like, oh man, like, should I even be considering what's been written in Enoch as something to be considered? And it wasn't until I realized that there was parts of Enoch that are actually quoted in New Testament that I was like, okay, so the writers of the scripture did read Enoch, and they use it as a reference. But in there, it talks about how the Nephilim came into existence, but not only was it like humans, but the fallen, they did this with animals and plants. They wanted to defile all of God's creation. And that's when I started thinking, like, is this some kind of remnant offspring of what happened a long time ago? And it just started like clicking in my head, if these things are remnant of something that happened a long time ago, it might explain why some people's experiences with these creatures are more supernatural than others. And I try to understand it in terms of like DNA. My brother and sister, I have a brother and sister who are twins, and like we're Puerto Rican, and my sister, she just looks like she's a white girl with blonde hair, and her twin brother is darker than me and looks like the Puerto Rican Mr. Bean. And I'm like, they're twins and they look so different. And it just started making me think, maybe I lack the proper scientific understanding and terminology with this, but could there be a situation where the remnant offspring of what happened, some of them have characteristics and traits of their supernatural fathers of long ago and not others, explaining why some seem to be supernatural and some seem to be natural. People talk about these things, speaking to them mentally, like there's like this telepathic communication. And you know, I know it sounds kind of crazy at first, but I've heard not only the telepathic communication with Sasquatch, but a lot of other things, including like demonic entities. So people having, you know, hauntings in their homes and experiences like that, they'll often, not often, but at times they'll reference the fact that it would communicate with them, but telepathically. In fact, just before I hopped on with you, I was talking to a woman who, when she was a kid in southeast Ohio, very rural Appalachia community, she said the closest Walmart was an hour away. Weird things would happen there. And you have to, side note, you have to consider, are these territories of ancient entities as well? I don't think people tend to think about where we live today as what lived there before, and is there something that's trying to claim domain over a geographical area. But she said, and this is going to sound crazy, but it is what it is. She said that she saw, as a child, this like Black Panther in southeast Ohio sitting on a tree stump, and this was in her backyard near a shed. And then instead of jumping off the tree stump, it stretched its leg out and stood up on two hind legs and walked. And that was the beginning of an experience where, as a child, she would see this thing, and it got to a point where there was a relationship involved and it was communicating with her. She couldn't remember if it was telepathic or verbal, but she doesn't have a clear image as to how that, it was like fragmented memories. And on the surface, you're like, that's crazy. But
Not everyone's life runs in straight lines. At Sophia, we get that. Our flexible...
she even said on the interview, she thinks that this has been a demonic entity, and it's showing itself to her in certain ways. But she talked about how when it would move, it would have like a black mist. It would disappear into a black mist. So it's obvious that this is a supernatural being that she encountered as a kid. And I've heard other people talk about this very thing, and going back full circle to what I mentioned earlier about the different origins of different things. There was a guy that I had years ago on the show who talked about working at Area 2, which is near Area 51 at Nellis Air Force Base. And it wasn't his direct experience, but it was a story that was passed on to him from people who were there. Something escaped one of the buildings, and the rumor was that it was some kind of cat-man creature that they were experimenting on in the base. And so you go to that, which sounds like it was some kind of experiment that escaped, to this panther catman thing that this lady sees that as a kid disappears into a black mist. But then she said that it had like a chain that it was wearing, and it had a dog tag, and it told her that it's a warrior, a soldier. I'm gonna go somewhere with this. So you have that. Canada now. So
okay, good.
There's a guy in Canada who I talked to, and he said that he was having these lucid dreams, and it was repeating, and he was having this interaction with this, what we talked about earlier, the dog man type creature, in like this lucid dream state. And it's something that I hear commonly talked about now, where people say in this lucid dream state, it's like you're there and it's real. It's places you've seen, you've been there before, but there's little pieces that are off. It's like Stranger Things in the Upside Down. Mm-hmm. And he has this ongoing communication with this entity, and this entity, and I had him on for 2 recordings, and the second one I questioned him more on it, and I'm glad I did, because he would say things about this entity and how it was nice, it was good, kind of like the girl in the Catman thing, and it was saying things to him, and he was believing it. And what it was saying wasn't necessarily false, but the way it was delivering the message was very one-sided. And at one point, this thing says that there was a great war, and it was between entities like it and these cat-like entities. And there was this great cataclysmic event that happened, and the land parted and the war ended when the water rose. And if you just think about the geographical aspect of it, just like Bigfoot, here in the United States is where people are saying they're seeing this upright walking canine entity, creature. You go across the Atlantic to the Middle East, and people often are saying that they see the jinn. And the jinn is a demonic entity that often shows itself as a Black Panther. And so this thing is talking about there was this war between the two entities, and something cataclysmic happened. Water rose and separated the two. Could that be Noah's flood? And so on top of that, this guy talks about this old war that happened, but then it says there's a war coming, and the army that's coming is coming to rebuild the earth and fix it, and we're going to fight against it, but we know we're going to lose. And I'm like, hey man, that sounds kind of like the coming of Christ, the second coming of Christ, man. And he's like, you know, that's a good point. I was like, how do you not see that? You know, like, and so he said things that made me feel like whatever he was communicating with, and it may not even be the true form. So like he's saying he's talking to something that is an upright walking canine creature, but it might be a depiction of something that is projecting to him. And so it may not even be the true form of whatever he was talking to, but it became very clear to me that whatever he was communicating with was telling him truths, but a very one-sided view of it. And so anyways, I just took you down this path. I don't even know how we got here, but Catman and stuff. So yeah.
Well, that's what I was hoping to get with our conversation. Some great stories. And actually, I have a story that from an episode that you did an interview with somebody that actually had I think it was an ancient giant called into a radio station or something. I forget, it was in one of the islands, and you were like, let's go talk to him, let's go figure this out.
Yeah.
What happened after that? I missed that next part, because I think it was just a short snippet promoting the episode, and I missed what actually ended up happening after that.
Yeah, so that is supposedly in the Catalina Islands, there were giants, and supposedly there still are giants, and there is one man or giant, Luddy McCode, I think is how you say it.
Yes.
And
Diagnosed with Crohn's disease and struggling with your symptoms? It's not too soon to talk to your doctor about Entyvio.
And supposedly he's still alive to this day, and he exists on the islands. Like, I don't know the full story. My friend Joel is the one who did the research on it, and actually I think I think it was Joel, but he basically, long story short, this giant went away, and when he came back, he restored order on the islands, and he's some kind of like king giant or something like that. But supposedly he's still around today, and I'm not really the one to tell the whole story, because I didn't research it. But when he said that he's still alive today, I was like, well, I guess I know where we're going, because I mean, an interview with a giant, you know, like, why not? But there's also like, there are people who believe that their bloodline comes from Nephilim, and there's this thought that the Rh negative bloodline is like a Nephilim bloodline, and that I forget what how the percentages break down, but there's like 15% of the world is Rh negative. Don't quote me on the exact numbers, but I'm just generally, And of that 15%, 90% of those people tend to have paranormal encounters and experiences, supernatural experiences. So there's definitely something that's kind of weird with that, and up with that. But there's a guy in Virginia who he's an older man, and he said he'll come down to the studio to talk to me. Our Common Connection is another podcast, but it seems like he might be one of these people, and to the point where him and his siblings all had to have a second row of teeth removed in their childhood. I think he's close to 70 years old now, and
Wow.
and I have never talked to the man. I've never even seen pictures of him, but from what I understand, one of his fingers on each hand looks like it's doubled, like they sewed his fingers together as a child or something, and like it's like extra thick fingers on one on each hand, and he has 6 toes, and that's a common thing with Nephilim giants and stuff. And so I think that there's probably still a remnant of some kind of Nephilim origin today, and people will say, well, how does that work? How is that possible with the whole flood thing? And my answer is, I don't know. All I know is Numbers 13:33 says there clearly were giants in the land, and that was post-flood. And is it something as simple as God cleansed the earth, and the rebellion continues to this day? So could they have just done it again? Could there have been a remnant that survived in a supernatural way? There's people who's ventured into saying that these are supernatural beings, so they were able to go into other realms during the flood or go off Earth. There's a lot of, I know it sounds wackadoo ways to look at it, but reality is when you look at the scripture, they survived the flood. Somehow they were post-flood. So whether they survived it or they came back, it's clear that they were there.
Alright folks, that's gonna do it for the stream. Remember, you can fund the dream by sending donos to paypal.me/glacier8888. paypal.me/glacier8888. Yeah. Wait, this isn't Pluto, is it? What happened to his mane? How come it's not white anymore? What the hell?
You got any last words? Oh,